Wait a minute, shouldn't the background be actually in the background and not in the description? Isn't that what we usually do?
What?
The background, it says background is call in to disagree link in the description.
Oh, right. Okay, wait.
It's the wrong
Didn't you have
background.
like a custom um do you have like a custom like image that we can just like put over that
I
gives
sent
the
it to you at
link?
one point, yeah.
Yeah. I'll just
Um,
run that. Um where
Let me
where
see
is
if I can
it?
if I can find it.
Sorry, I hope everyone's ready because typically Justin does this stuff, and I'm like grossly incompetent with it. So
Did I send it in the group chat or
I
did I
think
send
so. I
it?
think so. So it'd probably
Okay.
be how do you find all the pictures that have ever been sent?
I'm just scrolling through everything.
Yeah, understandable.
Uh,
Oh, well, wait, okay, because I wonder if
I mean, think of keywords that I may have used when sending it. Ah, found it.
okay. Um,
I'm gonna pin it. Okay, I've pinned the image.
nice. Okay, cool. Uh, let me uh wait, YouTube, also to my YouTube people, is there like a bad echo? Is there an echo which one might even describe as like egregious? Um, I hope not. But make sure you're double tapping on that screen, doing all that good stuff as I.
Yeah, you sound fine on YouTube.
Okay, cool. That's perfect. Um, geez Louise. Uh, yeah, that's
Yeah, I
perfect.
think we're
Okay.
good everywhere.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, I should send it a link to on Discord.
Do you one of my friends was asking who are like the major proponents of who are the major proponents of Big Bounce, Big Crunch?
Um, it depends on who you ask. And what I mean by that is like there are a bunch of people who have built models that do that.
Hmm.
Um, um, but perhaps, I mean, so there's Nia Yeshashforty or F Shorty who's been loud about it, and he recently wrote a book with somebody about it, um, about like a whole bunch of different Big Bang models. Um, but there aren't, as far as I know, there aren't like big names for any of these really. Like there's big names for inflation because the people who came up with inflation in the 80s were big names, or well, because inflation was a big deal. But beyond that, there's not really big names, period.
Sure. Interesting. I wonder why that is.
And
Why do you suppose that is?
well, so also keep in mind, the idea of a possible big crunch is like was ruled out 20 years ago, and it's only recently that people are starting to talk about other options now. So there really won't be any big names on it.
Okay.
It's even more specifically on that. But yeah, I mean, it's just because cosmology is a really wide field, and it's stagnating is not the right word, but it's been kind of stuck for 20 years.
What is it waiting on? Is it waiting on like new data?
Well, it's just that all of the observations were just consistent, and so we couldn't figure out. We still had these open questions like, what's the deal with the Big Bang? What's the deal with dark energy? What's the deal with dark matter?
Hmm.
But we just had no data that would tell us anything about it. Now,
Oh, interesting.
we have more recent data on dark energy, which is good. We still don't have very much information on Big Bang stuff. LISA might be useful for that. LISA is a planned telescope to launch in 2035, I think. But
Okay.
really
Sure.
hard to measure that stuff. Anyway,
That's interesting. Yeah. Hey, if you're watching this on one of the platforms, we're not taking viewers on TikTok. Where we are taking viewers on is this video ninja software. Excuse me. Um, Go to tinyurl.com/uaguest in order to join. If you disagree with us, if you think that God is real, if you're one of those people, one of them, then go to tinyurl.com/uaguest. We can have a good faith dialectic. We can have a bad faith dialectic. Dr.
It
Blitz
really
and
doesn't
I-
matter to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all the same, you know. I will gladly sacrifice my mental health for content.
Oh, I mean, isn't that what being a streamer is about?
I think so, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, just look at the biggest streamers in politics, and you'll see that they're all severely mentally ill.
Yeah. True. How do I, golly, let me.
And no, Justin is not here today. Justin will be abandoning us for the summer.
Yeah. He has
So-
parental obligations, whatever.
I'm a good father.
Yeah. Come on.
But we'll make do.
Yeah. Nevertheless, we persist. But make sure you're double tapping on that screen sharing with your friends. Allow me to request to join on in so we can get this in front of even more people. Let's get this guy.
Hey, who's that?
Is there a person?
No, I was talking about
Um,
this guy.
SMFH, dude. Shaking my head. But make sure you're doing all that good stuff. Welcome in. It's always great to see everyone on this Sunday morning. We're a bit late, but that's okay. It's
hopefully-
like categorically every time we're late, it is my fault, to be clear.
Well, at first it was my fault, and then it was your fault.
Yeah. No, I'm like terrible.
I mean, like, if we could shoot for we could in principle shoot for 11 in the morning Eastern Standard Time for the summer or something like that.
Okay.
And if you can wake up at that time, that's doable for me. Being back in the good old the bad new US of A.
Yeah, true. Yeah, lots have changed. Lots has changed since you've
Yeah, I
been
have
here.
good lighting now.
No, I mean about like the US of A.
Oh yeah, no, that too.
Yeah.
That too. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. We got people crashing out in the comments already. If you
we
want
do?
to defend your worldview, little bro, request to join on
Oh, we have a $2 super chat.
tinyurl.com/uaguest. We also have our
We have a
first.
$2 super chat from Arya.
Hell yeah.
It says, Dr. Blitz, your thoughts on Penrose's CCC model. So, I love Penrose. Penrose is my goddaddy. Not literally, but he kind of founded the area that I work in. Unfortunately, CCC is probably wrong. He thinks it's right. He's convinced that it's been proven right. Everyone else basically disagrees with him. But he's allowed to be wrong about something since he has a Nobel Prize. So, we give him some leeway. We have a guest.
Hey, how's it going? Apparently, Liam.
Pretty good. How you guys doing?
Doing well. Doing well.
All right.
Yeah. Are you?
Awesome.
Liam's not yet in the thing.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, can you hear me? Good.
Yep.
We
Okay,
can
cool.
hear you,
I just
but
want to
in
say,
TikTok.
I'm not sure. I'll keep talking. Tell me to shut up if
Wait,
I
Blitz,
need
is there
to do
a
some sound check.
problem?
Well, he's not showing up on the TikTok thing.
Oh yeah. No, I need to do that manually, but yeah.
Okay. Anyway, go ahead, Liam.
Awesome. Oh, I was gonna say I'm a friendly. I've watched probably 2,000 hours of your guys' stuff and huge fan. Love your lives. You did great on Jubilee. I know
Thank you.
you've been told that, but it was awesome. It was great how you were able to push Jordan around, and be able to. You knew where you wanted to go, and you had him, and it was awesome watching. Like I was cheering, like it was a sports game. I was refreshing at noon because I knew it was coming out.
That's
and
awesome.
it was,
That's so great to
it
hear.
was-
I appreciate that.
It was
So
cool.
wholesome.
Yeah,
it's
it
very
was
kind
cool.
of you. Yeah, I had a
And I
great
just
time
want to say,
doing it.
I wanted to. I've tried to find one thing that I could poke at, or one hole for you guys, and I'm not gonna lie, Dr. Blitz, so far I haven't found one thing. So I'll stick with with Ian. I think I got one thing
Yeah, go for it.
that I could possibly win. Okay. The trolley problem.
Sure.
You do take, the opposite view of the majority of philosophers, which obviously doesn't mean that what you're saying is wrong. But if empathy is the foundation of your objective morality, and I know that a lot of times you just use that to be able to outwit your theist opponent, but if empathy truly was just your foundation of objective morality, shouldn't your answer to the trolley problem be to switch, which is the sacrifice obviously the one person for the five?
No, because
By the way, Ian, before you answer, there is a correct answer to the trolley problem, and it's you pull the switch right as it's going across, so you can get double points.
Yeah, you get the drift, yeah, across the trolley,
Okay.
yeah.
You got to get everybody. Anyway, go ahead.
Solved. It's done.
Sure. So, in line with like the ethics of care, that what it means to be good is just that you're like a deeply caring individual. I guess this kind of just seems true, like regardless of system. But to me, there seems to be like a significant difference between taking someone's life and allowing them to die. To me, taking someone's life seems just much worse than allowing them to die, which means that like if you pull the lever to divert it towards just one person, you are taking that person's life. You did that.
Yeah,
but
I see that.
I don't think that, likewise, I think that if you just allowed the four people to die, I don't know, like there's really nothing
I
that you
do
could
think
have
it
done
definitely.
absent doing like something that's just like way worse. So
Yeah, no, I think it definitely would be harder. You would be more responsible, obviously, for the one. I get what you're saying. There's a difference between, doing the action or not taking the action. But I think that actually is an example. It would be the harder thing to do, but it would still be the most empathetic if you're looking, not just like total lives mathematically is the right choice, but it would be harder to do. But I think more empathetic to save the four people over one, even though you would have to, you might have to struggle with that. But and again, obviously, it's just a theory. But I was wondering what you thought about that.
No, I don't really think so. I think that it's like just definitely way worse to, I don't know, like in terms of empathy, I think that like building a society where you don't kill is going to be preferable to like building a society where you never allow people to die, right? Like I just think that one of these actions is significantly worse. Like it's significantly like more caring to not kill than it is. I don't know. I just don't. I feel like that's
I
just
can see.
true under,
I can
like
see
all
that.
moral systems. That like I would be confused if like the moral system that evaluates like letting die at the same level as killing, but it's certainly not my moral system.
Yeah. Well, now you're back to Dr. Blitz's bulletproof level. So I'll give you this one too. I just want to let you know I was born 25 years to the day after Graham Oppie. So I was born on 10/6/85.
Son.
Let's go. That's
Graham
And what was the
Cracker
last?
Oppie.
What's the last four of your social security?
No.
49.
No.
No, I'm joking. Graham Oppie was born into a Methodist family, but stopped being a believer after his friend asked him a kind of a logical question. I think it was does God have the power to make a question so simple that Jordan Peterson doesn't have the power to dodge it?
No.
So it's similar to your story.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that, but that's really funny.
Awesome.
Do you have anything else? Otherwise, we might move.
No,
on
I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna watch you guys cook some CS.
Yeah,
It's great watching you guys. I went to University of Dayton, graduated from there. My brother's lawyer, dad's PhD electrical engineering, and so it's cool to all go through Catholicism, and then to now be in the 30s finally be able to see the writing on the wall, and you guys are great in debates and logic. And Ian, I think you're the subtly, secretly hilarious, as well as Dr. Blitz. Every time, about every 20 minutes, when you sneak in a little joke, it's worth it because it keeps it entertaining. But thank you both.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks so much
for
for
being here,
coming
Liam.
up.
Awesome.
Hey,
All right, Mr.
Yeah, Mr.
Hello. What's going on?
Going well.
Hey guys,
How old are you?
I am 22 years old.
Gotcha.
Great.
Yeah, I just wanted to start out by saying that my view of Christianity is technically, I'm sure, very a-traditional, right? So I'm not going to be providing a common perspective. I don't believe. But the first question I want to ask you guys is: are you guys philosophical rationalists?
I have no idea what that means.
Probably not.
Okay, so when I say that, I mean, do you epistemologically only believe that you could apprehend truth through reason?
No.
Interesting. So, what other modems of? Okay, so for example,
I'm not so sure about that, by the way. I'd
go
have to
ahead.
think about it some more.
Yeah, well,
But
I
go
would
ahead.
want to. Yeah.
There's probably
No, well,
like
sorry.
phenomenological methods of arriving at truth, right? Like you could phenomenologically pick out certain pieces of your experience and then derive truths on that basis. So I don't know. Like I think that there's lots of things that you can arrive at through rationalism, but then there's like also I tend towards like philosophical, like epistemic foundationalism, specifically like a Siemens foundationalism, where
Hmm.
the source of all justification comes from like seemings. Whether or not those seemings are 100% accurate, like they're probably not. But if anything is the foundation, it needs to be like our intuitions about things, like the way that things appear to us. It just can't be anything else.
I would completely agree with you, Ian. 100%. But then from there, I would sort of go into my belief is I'll just make it super simple because I don't want to waste your guys' time. But under my perspective, the belief that God exists is irrational, but nonetheless is true. That's my stance. So
How do you figure?
okay, so essentially, right, to me, using logic to apprehend reality is not necessarily an accurate modem. Then people usually respond with, oh, so how could you apprehend truth if you're not using reason? My answer, right, is again, I can't, I'm not, I would never claim to know anything. So for me, I don't believe that we can know anything. I mean, aside
What?
from basic, like, ontological, I'm referring to like metaphysics. I'm not referring to like,
Are you referring to like knowledge in a certain sense, or are you referring to knowledge
yes,
in like some sort of
knowledge in an
justified
absolute
belief?
sense.
Oh.
Okay.
No, knowledge in an absolute sense. Yeah.
Well, nobody really uses knowledge that way, except like so there's like a philosophical tradition called infallibilism, but that's like a very silly philosophical tradition. I don't know any epistemologists who would hold to infallibilism about knowledge. I think like all of them would allow that it's like possible that you're wrong about it.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, for me personally, like, of course, mathematical logic and things hold up completely well. But if we're referring to like any deep truths that aren't necessarily connected to, math, I find them very, very hard to not be skeptical of. So, of course, the existence of God as as a concept is something that I think is that I would say evaluating by pure reason alone, the likelihood that God exists is way lower than the likelihood He does. But I don't believe that my experience as a human being is rational in the slightest. I experience completely irrational things like love and things that I also do not believe
Why is that
are
irrational?
evolutionarily biological. Go ahead.
Why is love irrational?
Well, it's irrational from bio. Have you ever read? I don't think it's the God. I'm sorry. I'm just walking, so I'm getting like a little bit out of breath. But
Got to work on that cardio.
yeah, 100%. Have you guys ever read Richard Dawkins at all? Or I'm sure you guys have.
I think I read The Selfish Gene and the God Delusion like
I
15 years
think I
ago.
think it's in the Selfish Gene actually. He basically just talks about, and this is honestly a main topic of what I've studied for the past like, I did it like 2 years ago, but I studied this for like a solid 2.5 months. Just evolutionary biology in correlation to altruism, so kin selection, all that kind of stuff. I'd have to pull up the quote for you guys, but essentially, like Dawkins even comes out and says that like sort of I don't want to butcher the quote, but he essentially says like the compassion, the self-sacrificial altruism that's displayed amongst human beings is completely unique and makes zero sense from an evolutionary psychology perspective. And that's something he personally actually struggles with. My stance is quite similar. Reading the medical literature, or not the medical literature, but reading the biological literature about, let's say, monkeys, right? And their let me take a seat. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to find somewhere to sit. Reading the literature about monkeys and how they interact with one another in regards to food, unless it's reciprocal, as in they'll receive something in turn, or unless it's a kin-related sort of situation where their genetics would be benefited nonetheless to, help that other chimp survive. For example, I guess the way I'll put it is a sloth will never give a food to a monkey willingly, unless of course it's a there's a word for it, but it mistakes it as its child because its motherly instincts are very high after it's either lost its child or its child dies. So it would adopt another animal, believing it to be its child. That's a situation also. But animals don't necessarily, from my understanding of the research, have the capacity to offer something that would be obviously negative for their survival to an animal that has no positive correlation to its survival.
That
So
doesn't seem like a problem for evolutionary biology, though. Like it seems like that's easily understood just as kind of like a feature of human psychology, right? It doesn't seem like it's.
Are you saying like essentially that the ego would be responsible for the extrapolation of altruism instead of some other universal, I guess quality?
What I'm saying roughly is that like it's super. I'm sure you can agree that evolutionary psychology gives us a good reason to think that like at least altruism with regard to like kin relations or even like tribal relations are totally intuitive,
Understandable.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
So it seems like if that's something that's super selected for, because provides huge benefit, it's totally plausible that part of the human psychology could just basically be hijacked in a world where everybody's connected to everything. We have we can talk to people halfway around the world, and we have like we can see animals living around us. Like it seems like all that's happening is that humans are super hard coded for empathy, like super hard coded for empathy, and so it just extends far further than perhaps might be evolutionarily beneficial.
I would.
It
Yeah.
was
So
selected so highly
sorry.
for in the past.
So I'll tell you my personal perspective. I do disagree with you only because I think that the way that you're describing it is not how I see it. Is in, I think you're describing it as in the empathy, the natural empathy within animals is just super extended, but I don't think that that's the case. I mean, human beings are willing to die for a human being that they have absolutely no association for. That's something that to me is like a completely separate and distinctive thing. I mean, you're willing to. We have the capacity, whether it be through consciousness or whatever, or a soul or whatever motive you like to attribute it to, but we have the capacity to care enough about another person to willingly die and destroy our chances of ever having any evolutionary success in the gene pool, for a person that we've never even spoken a word to. This has happened
Wait.
Throughout history hundreds of thousands of times, if not.
So I'm currently right now watching a video of an elephant rescuing an antelope from drowning. Like how would you possibly explain this?
Oh yeah, I saw that this
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah. So, okay, all of this stuff, right? I'd have to see the video and go through context. But again, like, and there are also situations, like if you look into orca whales, right? Orca whales big blue whales will help dolphins escape, or seals, I think, escape from orca whales. Not because the whale is like, oh,
humans.
Yes. Let me just finish my point about whales,
go
and then I
ahead.
could go to that. My point is to say with whales, a whale will save, I think it's a seal or maybe a dolphin from orcas, not because the whale is like, oh, I really feel bad for this, seal. It's more of a situation that orcas are responsible for killing whale babies. So in spite of that, the whales, like blue whales, have been observed defending orca prey. But the scientists have concluded, at least in that case scenario, that it isn't a situation of, the whale having, humanity level altruism. It's more so the whale, sort of getting a retribution or preventing orcas from, feeding because they're a natural enemy. That's the scientific consensus, at least in that regard. So I would assume it would be something similar. Not necessarily. I'm not necessarily sure. I mean, again, I don't know anything. I just have opinions.
So with regard to the people who sacrifice themselves, I mean, like that's definitely a rare thing too. When somebody sacrifices themselves for somebody that they've never talked to.
I don't know if I would never call it rare. Of
course it's rare. Of course it's rare. Most people don't
It happened a ton in the Holocaust.
Period.
It
Most
happened
people
a
don't
ton.
sacrifice themselves. Period. right?
Yeah, but that's because of the circumstances. Meaning, like,
Yeah,
if you're,
and like for
yeah,
example, the Holocaust is a rare circumstance.
100%, but it doesn't change the fact that that altruistic capacity is displayed time and time again.
So
It's I'd say it's an undeniable feature of the human, the human
perhaps so,
condition.
but all that means is that they've extended what they view as their tribal community to
No,
humans.
I don't think so, because
Why
that guy
not?
isn't part of their tribal community. That's a
No,
random
no.
guy who
The
has
point
no
is
association
so
to him.
so so look. There are different levels of community, right? There's the self, which is the smallest community. There's the family, which is slightly larger. There's the tribal community, which is even larger still. And you can just build up the hierarchy of size, right? You can have like the national community. You could have the global community, and
I
so
just
all
think
that
that's
seems to be
word.
happening.
Sorry,
All
keep going.
all that seems to be happening is that like this seems to be a degree of like a matter of degree rather than like some qualitative difference. All that's happening is that somebody has as a result of their psychology for whatever reason, the way that they think about community is not restricted to 100 people that they live near, but rather to anybody that they recognize as human. And that doesn't seem so far-fetched.
Okay, so yeah, I'd like to respond to that. To me personally, I obviously, of course, would heavily disagree with that only because, again, I think the reason why community reciprocal altruism, or not altruism, I guess you could call it that, in the animal kingdom exists in the first place is because of reciprocation. Within a community, reciprocation is allowed. So if me and you are neighbors, right, and I bring you sugar and I want a cast iron pan to use to make steak the next day, I could knock on your door and say, hey, you remember when I gave you sugar? Could I borrow this pan? And you could say, oh yeah. And now we're teaming up. So I think the word community is meaningful. So in the
Ah, you're
sense of the
making the
animalist,
mistake of thinking that this is rational. This is not rational. Animals in a community, in their tribal community or in their family community or whatever, they are not thinking, if I give this now, they are likely to do this in the future. Rather, the evolutionary process will just select for
whoa,
a
whoa, whoa,
chimpanzee being
hold on.
rational towards or being
No,
altruistic towards their family members.
I
This is
definitely
not
think
some
you're wrong
rational
about that.
behavior.
No,
Oh,
I think you're completely wrong about that.
there's just
I've
zero
read a decent amount
evidence.
about this.
Like
I'm not at my computer, but I could definitely pull up evidence to the contrary.
Well, wait a
It's
minute. So do you think that when humans behave altruistically towards family members, do you think that it's like, oh well, if I protect them, then my genes are more likely to be passed on? Or
no,
when they're nice to their neighbor, it's like, oh
no.
well, if I give them sugar now, they'll let me borrow their pen later. Like that's just not how the psychology of human works. And I think it's fair to infer that at least those interactions can be, modeled onto the similar interactions in the animal kingdom.
So yeah, again, like I said, under my personal philosophical view, I believe human beings are, half and half. We have an evolutionary side and we have a spiritual side. Obviously, of course, depending on the subjective context of the interaction and the person's intentions, it could be one or the other, even in the same interaction, right? So I could give you a cast iron pan because I do genuinely want you to have a good time, or I could give you a cast iron pan because I think that maybe you'll give me $10 for giving you that cast iron pan, right? So again, I think human beings are infinitely more complex than animals under my personal philosophical viewpoint. But I'd like to stick to animals only because I think there's a very clear, and again, I'm not a rationalist, but I do think that there's a very, very clear distinctive difference in essence, between that part of a human being and anything I've
But
ever observed in the animal
But
kingdom.
think about the animal kingdom. Like clearly we know that there's some form of altruism in the animal kingdom, right? Like you'll have like animals taking care of tribal like members of their community, right?
Is that
We know that
altruism?
this. So when I say altruism, what I mean is some form of behavior where they are sacrificing some food or whatever to give to something else that doesn't have any like obvious benefit to them. Maybe there will be some long-term benefit, like maybe their tribe is more likely to survive. But this is like not something that the
That's a
animals are
benefit.
capable of rationalizing. Right, but this is not something that the animals are capable of rationalizing, right? They don't understand. They don't
Sure, but it's
understand that. They just do
evolutionarily
it because
coded
it's
into their
evolutionary selected.
being.
Right. So they don't understand why they're doing it. They just feel the psychological urge to. They see one of their kin, lying on the ground, and they feel the psychological urge to help them. And all I'm
I don't
saying
disagree.
is that's what humans do. Humans have just expanded what it means for their kin or their community to be. That's all I'm saying.
See, no, again, I understand that. I'm just rejecting that idea only because, again, I think the word community. So let's say we agree with that first point, right? Even then, you'd have to still grant that there is an evolutionary positive to that self-sacrifice. So at the bottom, end of the line, it isn't a real sacrifice. Again,
To
this
be
is
clear, no, this you're making the same mistake again. There's the what's being selected for is not the the thing that you're getting in return. What's being selected for is the psychological behavior, and the
no,
reason that
I
psychological
understand.
behavior is being right. So it doesn't actually. So once you have that psychological behavior in you, it doesn't matter if there are no longer returns. That psychological behavior is still there.
I'm again not disagreeing. I'm arguing that there is a return. So my argument is again, I'd have to. I wish I was home. I could provide you guys literature on this. Essentially, from my understanding, again, there are questionable outliers, but in the history of biological study, there hasn't been enough evidence for any reputable scientist worth their salt to come up and say animals make sacrifices without perceptive benefit, or not maybe not perceptive benefit, but without long-term overall benefit. It may be encoded, it may be like evolutionarily, hardwired into their brains to do this, but there is some link. I would say 99.9% of the time, and then of course in those outlier cases, 0.1% isn't enough to justify.
I mean, so the example you gave of a sloth taking care of a baby monkey because that sloth was confused because maybe their baby got eaten by
It's
a
maternal.
tiger or
Yeah,
something
it's
like that.
maternal
That's
instinct.
that is an example of altruism because it provides no benefit. Now, it's that altruism is arising because of mistake of some sort of like psychological fluke, that they have this instinct built in to care for like little baby things.
For
And
their youth. It's not for any little baby. It's for their youth.
Right. But they're not equipped to differentiate between their youth and like a baby monkey, right? And so all I'm saying is that some point in the evolutionary past, 5 million years ago for humans, this evolutionary this altruistic, this community altruistic behavior developed, and it wasn't that community altruistic behavior didn't evolve to make a distinction between humans that were halfway around the globe because they weren't in the environment. So that wasn't a necessary distinction that had to be made between humans that were halfway around the globe and humans that are close to you. All that mattered was that there were humans that were close to you and you took care of them. And so it seems super plausible to me that the psychological development that happened is see human, help human, because that would have been evolutionarily beneficial if the only humans you're seeing are the people that are related to you and the people that live near you.
I understand what you're saying, but again, to me, it seems like see human, help human, but die at the cost of that is not something that would be evolutionarily, programmed in.
It would absolutely be evolutionarily beneficial if the only humans you ever saw were humans that were closely related to you or humans that were.
That's my point, but that isn't the case. Meaning, like with these sacrifices we see, for example, there's a guy named
Nowadays
Maximilian.
we see that, not a million years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, human beings didn't exist a million years ago.
So we came into communities a lot quicker than evolution could keep up with. I bet like the behavior probably wouldn't have been selected for, but because we came into communities, I don't know, like 20,000 years ago?
1,000 years ago?
Yeah, something like that, right? Like evolution certainly doesn't have the time to select for something like this. So it's just using the psychological mechanisms that are already built in.
Yeah, I understand what you guys are saying, but to me, it's just not good enough in terms of
Why not?
an explanation
What
for the
doesn't it
existence
explain?
of. Again, evolution selects for survival most of the time, from what I'm aware of. If that's the case, a human being willfully putting down their life for something with no absolutely knowledgeable and perceptive 0% positive for their evolutionary.
The psychological impetus for altruism is not rational. That's the whole. That's the whole point. It's like it's not.
Yeah, but I would claim
like
it's spiritual. You would have to explain it through the evolutionary lens.
Right,
That's the
and
difference.
we have. So like, okay, let me
No.
give you another example.
I don't think you
Let me
guys
give you
have.
another example. Suppose that clearly you agree that the maternal instinct is super evolutionarily beneficial, right?
Yes,
To take care
sure.
of take care of your young, right?
And not just
so
that's with animals though, not humans. It's different.
in
but
humans,
yeah.
in humans as well. It's also very beneficial in humans.
Again,
right?
half.
Obviously.
I think a mother could have a spiritual
Okay,
love for her child,
let's
and I
say-
think the
let's
act of
say
bringing
in-
a human being.
So suppose for a moment, set aside your worldview. Suppose for a moment, just consider what I'm saying.
Sure.
That 10 million years ago, the ancestors of humans, or 6 million years ago, Australopithecus, whatever, they develop a psychology because their offspring are very, very vulnerable. They develop a psychology that see human child near me, protect it. That would clearly be evolutionarily beneficial, right?
Again, I don't think it's that simple for humanity, but you could go on.
Sorry, but would that be beneficial?
Would that be beneficial? In a tribe, yes.
Would that be beneficial? Period. I mean, like most of the time, the human infants
I would
that
argue
you'll
no,
see will be
not
close
in
to
the
you.
world we're in now.
I'm not talking about the world we're in now. I'm
Yeah, we
talking
didn't
about
evolve
6
for the
million
world
years
that
ago.
we're in now.
6 million years ago, Australopithecus. See
Sure.
Australopithecus infant, protect it. That would be evolutionary beneficial. It would be more
Sure,
likely
I'll
to
give you
pass on
that. Yeah,
genes.
that's fine.
Right. So after a million years of reinforcing this trait, well, humans still have that trait, and now we see babies that are 5,000 miles away, and we feel bad about it, so we do something about it.
You think
And
that's your
that can stem from a more base psychological urge.
sure, but I'm saying, Dr. Blitz, if we're being genuine here, right? Do you not think when you feel love, who's the person you love the most?
My wife.
My wife. Do you
My wife.
truly
My
believe?
wife.
Do you truly believe that feeling that you have, I would argue transcendental, is just a complete, rework of see wife who helps genetic material be happy?
probably.
Or
Yeah, probably.
yeah, to me the feeling is just too deep, intricate, and complex for me to consider it to be something like that.
Well,
I would
that's
take
what your
deep as the key
psychology would want
factor.
you
To be clear, what would it feel like if it was just that? Like, I'm not even sure what we would be comparing this to, or like on what basis we'd be saying that that's not sufficient. This is our only data
I guess I'm
point.
referring to the amount of care that I have toward people. I guess even unrelated. Like, for example, when I was a kid, I saw this homeless guy, and I had like a Buffalo Wild Wings, I think, and he was just sitting there. And for some reason, I was able to just imagine, hey, I can go home and have Sour Patch Kids or whatever, but this guy doesn't have that. So, I just put myself in his shoes for a second and gave him my Buffalo Wild Wings. I knew that he wouldn't give me, $20 to pay for it, but for some reason, right, I decided to do that, and I felt that deep empathy for him. That to me, again, like I get your whole community argument, but it doesn't. The thing is, to me, community is tied to reciprocation. So by separating that, and I get what you're saying with the baby thing also, it's just not reasonable enough for me. It doesn't capture the truth. I feel like it doesn't. I don't know. It's just not enough for me.
You don't think that that's sufficient?
But I understand.
Right? So
but that's
if you were
sorry.
living like 5 million years ago or 6 million years ago, see Australopithecus baby, feel deep like care and affection for them, or like you
But
see.
I also don't believe that
you
too.
see
Probably.
you see Australopithecus in trouble. You want to help Australopithecus. You don't think that
Yeah, but
that
I don't
has
believe
any evolutionary?
Australopithecus feels deep feeling. Probably, under my view,
Do you have any
I
evidence?
wouldn't believe that. What?
Do you have any evidence for that?
Do you have any evidence for the contrary?
Yeah.
I mean, so like
When did
you don't.
humans-
Australopithecus, would you say that like Homo habilis wouldn't have had deep feelings, or like Homo erectus wouldn't have had deep feelings?
Again, I'd have to do more research, but
Because
yeah,
I think it's a Homo erectus example. Homo erectus, I think, was like 2 million years ago. And I
Yeah.
could double check, but I think it's Homo erectus, where there was an example of a guy, like they found a skeleton of a guy who lived to old age, but he was a cripple. Like they could tell from his bones that he was a cripple, which means that his family took care of him.
Blitz, you can't say that word anymore. You'll get canceled.
He was okay. You're right. What's the right word?
Like physically disabled.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. He was physically disabled. I think he had like a basically like a destroyed arm, and I think that he had like
Sure.
a hole in his head or something like this.
oh, that guy was a warrior. All right.
Well, but no, he got injured as a like you can tell from the bone growth that he got injured as a child or as like a teenager or something like this, and then he just got taken care of for the rest of his life, even though he's disabled.
Yeah, again, like under my view, I guess of course I would say something is in like the evolutionary benefit of course taking care of the elderly members of your tribe is that when you become elderly, you would receive that same benefit as well. I obviously would not believe that Australopithecus or even Homo erectus had this deep spiritual love for this other Homo erectus, and yeah, I wouldn't believe that.
Well, so I'll just read you something from Psychology Today. Our inclination for working together emerged in the child-rearing practices of our ape ancestors who lived a few million years ago. Hurdy argues that this kind of human cooperation, the shared childcare of these apes, was the turning point that led us as emotionally modern human beings capable of mutual recognition and understanding. So it seems like a couple million years ago is when it developed. And a couple million years ago, we were in tribes with nothing but our closely related ancestors. So we have these cognitive mechanisms to cooperate, to take care of people. It's just built into us. The people that we see as like non-threatening or as like, I don't know, like part of our community, when we see these people, we just have like instincts to take care of them. And when our community expands past this, we have these exact same instincts, and we apply this to scenarios that they didn't, these scenarios didn't exist when we were evolving. Evolution didn't create these scenarios, but the mechanism certainly applies in them.
Sure. I'd like to say one more thing on this point and just say one more if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
But again, I think the issue, and I hope I'm being respectful. I just want to get my points across.
No,
I don't want to
fine.
cut you guys off. So yeah, I mean, again, like from my personal perspective, I think it's this idea that the meaning of community becomes this general thing, where to me, my perception of it would be community would be innately tied to personal relationships, innately tied to the idea of reciprocation, even the potentiality of starting a family. All of those things would involve community. So by just saying like, oh yeah, that homeless guy on the side of the street is part of my community because he's a human being, I wouldn't necessarily buy into that idea.
Why not?
And I do think, yeah, but I understand where you guys are coming from. I do think you're wrong, but I understand completely why that would make sense to you guys. 100%. I just have a different perspective.
Well, so it seems okay, let's say, but insofar as you can't like provide like an actual argument other than like, well, I just think that that's wrong. It seems like
you can never provide an actual argument.
Sure, then both of our views just equally explain the data, so then it's not data in favor of either view.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So this is what I wanted to clarify in the beginning.
Data to see whether or not God exists.
My point. Yeah, but my point is to say, under my view, again, I don't think that debate or logical reasoning is a sufficient modem of truth apprehension. So, like, meaning, no matter what you could reason to me, right? So, you could give me 10 trillion reasons for X, Y, Z, but again, under my worldview, I think the world is a place with rationality imbued into it, but also irrationality. And if that's the case, trying to understand, the truth, which would be the whole thing, by the means of pure rationality, pure reason, would be discounting at least, I'd say, half of human existence, if not much more.
I think there's some philosophical confusion that's happening here. When we say like pure reason, typically what we're referring to is like the laws of logic. We're not saying that like everybody always operates. They always like carefully, deliberately think through like every single thing that they're ever doing. Like that's not what epistemic rationalism even claims. What it claims is just that the only way to arrive at like truth is through reasoning and reasoning processes. So
yeah, that's where my contention is in, for example, you guys, I'm sure, like, you guys like art.
Well, but I don't think either of us hold to epistemic rationalism.
Dr. Blitz, I love you. You're funny. But let me just put it like this.
I'm not sure what the relevance is insofar as we don't hold on to like epistemic rationalism.
Well, I was going to get into beauty.
Okay.
So I was going to get into beauty. So again, like I know you guys had a whole conversation with Jordan Peterson. I have obviously very, very different views than him, but
I did not.
Yeah,
I was not invited.
Gotcha. But like, yeah, for example, with that whole situation, I mean, I didn't see the whole thing, but like, yeah, I think it's very silly trying to rationally argue for the existence of, a purely spiritual, I'd say experientially based entity. I mean, I think that's ultra silly. And if somebody asked me, oh, do you believe in God? I would say yes. Then they would say, do you believe, like, does it make sense? And I would say no. So I don't think that we can come to, or anyone could come to, a rational stance, or only because the essence of life itself is fundamentally irrational under my view. For example, beauty. Like we have this intuitive, of course you could link it back to evolutionary biology if you'd like to, but again, I really don't. It's the depth and I wouldn't even I go to music instead of nature to really, like, I guess, cement it. You guys don't feel like immense intuitive beauty when listening to like beautiful music?
So I
I've
have frisson, which is a thing. It's a
Say again.
genetic trait. Frisson. If I remember
Ah,
correctly, it's a genetic trait where when you have some sort of overwhelming emotional stimulus or overwhelming emotional response to something, you get like the hair on your arm stands up or whatever.
ah.
It's like it's fairly common, but not everybody. It doesn't happen to
yeah.
everybody.
I'm glad I
So
can do
like
that
Yeah,
for
I
you,
know that there's like
Blitz.
physiological what?
I'm glad I can do that for you, Blitz.
Ayo. But it's a physiological response. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure, but my point is to say the beauty, the beauty itself. Where do you think that comes from? That causes. So again, like let me just say this also, so you guys, I guess, get my perspective more too. I don't deny that there are physiological causes for nearly like everything, not causes, but like reactions. My point would be, for example, spiritual instances cause physiological reactions. So, for example, like stress. Stress doesn't just miraculously pop into anybody's head. You have to be in a stressful situation, and then to me, my idea would be that that stressful situation would be the reason for the physiological cortisol hormone to rise, not the physiological cortisol hormone is the reason for stress rising. If that makes sense. Sorry, I'm just really, it's really hot outside, sweating. And so
Just
like
say it one more.
beauty would be the underlying essence of that physiological reaction. It wouldn't be it would be the beauty that would be causing that. And the question is, what is that beauty? Where does it emanate from? And
This just sounds
does
like
it
God of the gaps. Like, why would I think that that there isn't like some sort of evolutionary explanation for this?
again, it's again, like I said, it's again, you're approaching it rationally. As in, for example, you're trying to apprehend beauty rationally. That's the issue for me.
But
So
it sounds like your criticism is, hey, well, stop trying to think about this too hard and just believe that beauty comes from God. Like,
no, I'm
and
not
like I
telling.
get
I
that
know, but
that's
I don't. I'm not trying to convince you guys necessarily. I'm just
Oh,
giving you my
fuck.
perspective. I don't believe what.
Oh, sorry, no, nothing.
Yeah, no, I'm just like, for example, Dr. Blitz, I'm not, I don't think that God even wants me to go and say, hey, you should believe in me. I don't think that's, under my view, what Jesus would want.
well. So the way I mean, my base instinct when confronted with something I don't understand is try to understand it. So like if you wanted to have somebody, if you wanted to have a conversation where like we just kind of like irrationally appreciate the beauty of the natural world, you came to the wrong place.
No, that's not, no, I understand you. But what I'm trying to say is I would sort of argue that underlying sort of instinct is a negative one. That would be my perspective. I think I could argue
You think
that.
it's a
Of course,
negative one?
yeah,
Okay.
overanalyzation, yeah. That's again totally different conversation, but I think it stems from the ego. I do this also obviously a lot, as you can tell. I do think, which is a problem. Not a problem, but long story short, I
I
think
agree. No more
this desire
thinking.
to understand is rooted in a want that is kind of negative, as in at least in my personal experience. When I just go outside and experience the spiritual beauty of looking at a tree or something, my life is infinitely better than when I sit there and go, what is beauty? And I write like a 700-page essay and read a bunch of philosophical literature about it and
Well,
try to understand
I
it.
would like 100%, 110% disagree with you because I actually think that like a philosophical treatise on like what beauty is would be way more interesting to me. Like I'd have a way better time reading that than I would like going to an art museum
Well, art museum is, I don't know about art
or
museum.
like
I would say
looking at
like,
like a
honestly,
tree, right? If I have to choose
yeah.
between like looking at a tree or reading like a philosophy book on like why it's so pretty to look at a tree, I'm always gonna choose to read like the philosophy book.
Well, yeah, I understand that. I mean, also to me, it depends if the philosophy book is like experience based or reasoning based.
Well,
If
I
it were
think it's just
reasoning based,
subjective, right? Like I think that
go ahead.
like the preference that you're describing is like 100% subjective.
Yeah, I would argue pretty much. Yeah, I would. I'm not. Again, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not trying to objectively prove anything to anybody. I'm trying to have a conversation to see what
Mhm.
you guys think and see what I think, and yeah, maybe discuss it. See if I could, yeah, or you could come to a common ground, or I could come to I don't know.
Yeah, well,
But
it just seems like
yeah,
it's like another data point. Um, it's another data point that we just like both equally explain. So you need to appeal to like data points that we couldn't explain, right? Like I can bring up data points that like the Christian worldview can't explain, like the suffering in the world, if you want to talk about that.
I would love to.
Sure. I think when we look to the world around us, We see horrible suffering that just makes no sense. If God is
Stop
all
for a
good and
second.
he has like the power to stop it. So things like
Gotcha.
malaria, things like
Yeah.
earthquakes, things like kids with cancer. God has the power to
Gotcha.
stop each and every one of these things. If there was a button in front of you right now, and by pushing this button, you would delete all malaria from the world, you would delete all cancer from the world, would you push that button?
No.
That's crazy. That's an insane thing to say.
I'll tell you why. You ready?
Really?
Yep, I'll tell you why too. Because I don't believe, right, that I have the power to determine what is right and wrong by my rational apprehension. So again, on
But wait,
paper,
don't you do that all the time?
I do it by
like
intuitive. I do it by intuitive.
okay,
So
is it
like for example,
intuitively is it intuitively good to get rid of malaria?
it is in a certain context, but you're giving me a universal, like complete obliteration of reality. You're basically saying exterminate all suffering from the planet immediately.
Just malaria.
Just malaria.
Just malaria.
Yeah.
Still, I mean, I guess of course I would have to say yes, but again,
Mhm.
I do think that's because I'm under a limited context. Meaning, like for example, I would my bottom line argument for, I guess the problem of evil would be, I just don't believe any human being can determine evil or good. As in, I had the worst experience of my life with death anxiety for 2 years straight, and it was very, 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 very tough time, like horribly tough time for me. But now I'm a more humble, happy, and fun-loving person who's much more relaxed and less serious. And because of that, right, my quality of life significantly improved. So do I think that immense suffering that I've been through for 2 years is inherently negative? No, I don't believe so. And again, so especially if death isn't the end of life, which is something that I think hopefully you guys would agree we don't know for certain.
Well, but I just want to be
I
clear. I want to be so
Sorry.
super clear about all of this. We're not talking about like suffering in general, right? There are experiences that can lead to a greater good. That's totally fine. I could see a reason why God would permit those. I'm not talking about suffering in general. I'm talking about
So you're
very
saying that you
specific
can't imagine a
instances.
universe where malaria, for example, right?
Malaria has killed billions with a B,
Yes.
billions,
Yes.
billions, not millions, billions of people. Malaria has killed billions of people. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no
Do you view death as a
justification,
bad
even
outcome?
kind of, for malaria. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And
Okay. So
intuitively,
again,
you do too.
of course I do. Yes, but I think that's natural for me. As in, if per se, right? I'm sure you guys know about like eternal recurrence, the Nietzschean thing, right?
I have no reason to think it's true, but yeah.
No, I don't think it's true either. I'm just just using it as like, I don't know, like a similar example. If life doesn't necessarily end at death, I think saying, oh, if a child goes through immense suffering and dies, that's completely 100% objectively inherently an evil thing. I think jumping to that conclusion is a little bit too forward. I mean, there's a book, probably my favorite book ever, The Brothers Karamazov, which goes heavy into this with, I don't know if you guys have read it,
Do you
but
like Jordan Peterson, perchance?
no.
Okay, just checking, because he likes that book a lot too.
Yeah, that's I think it's a great book, but I don't think Peterson's necessarily, the best guy ever. And I don't agree with most of his opinions either. But if you want to see something I do like, go check out Ingmar Bergman and Tarkovsky. They're filmmakers, they're really good. But bottom line, Ivan Karamazov basically says like there's this whole story of a dog who who kills this child of a general. It's a whole thing. And basically Ivan's argument to the priest, his brother, is like, yeah, there's no universe ever where I would allow this under any circumstances, even if, like heaven were to exist and the child would have perfect happiness and his death would result in the spiritual growth of like an entire country. It still wouldn't matter to me, right? So that's your stance, and that stance is completely understandable. But again, like I don't know if God exists or not. It's a I guess longing toward. So yeah, I guess if I had to give you guys an answer, it would be that. I just don't know that I could condemn any evil as like a completely objectively negative,
Well,
because I just don't know if life ends
That's
at
not.
death.
We're not asking you to do that. We're just asking you to, what would you do?
yeah,
Would you push a button?
Well, because of that, it would be a tough choice, is what I'm saying.
it
Because
shouldn't be.
I feel like, say again.
It shouldn't be. To me,
Again,
like
obviously,
if there's a button in front of me and pushing this button cures malaria, that's a really easy choice.
It's like super
again,
easy.
I hope you guys understand what I'm saying, though. I'm not saying that I wouldn't wish that malaria would be cured. That's not what I'm
It
saying.
sounds like you're doing the overthinking now.
I 100% agree. I do struggle with overthinking. But what was I going to say? I mean, listen, again, if you really put a button in front of me that could cure malaria, I'm sure I'd press it.
Would God?
Like, what?
Would God press that button?
No, but God has a different contextual understanding of malaria than me.
Then that's just crazy, right? Like it's
Why is that
insane
crazy?
to think that, because malaria to me is just like obviously something that the world would be better off without.
Yeah,
Like
but what if the world
you're
isn't
committed
supposed
to
to be
the view
good?
that
Oh,
malaria,
hold on,
all
hold
things
on.
considered, is good, which to me is just absurd.
No, I never argued that malaria was good. I think the world is bad on purpose. That's my argument.
Then God's not
And
all
I think,
good.
No.
I don't think that's how that stacks up.
Okay. Maybe I could lead you to that conclusion this way. Would you agree that an all good being does the best thing? They bring about the best possible state of affairs that they have the power to bring about and that they know of?
Sure.
Sure. So God, because he's all powerful and all knowing, necessarily brings about the best state of affairs.
Sure.
Sure. So then we necessarily live in the best state of affairs.
No, that doesn't track. You said brings about the best state of affairs.
Yeah, if God
Which is
brings
what I
about
believe.
the best state of affairs, then the best state
I
of
don't think the best state of
exists.
affairs is a permanence.
Okay,
I don't
then
think the
God
best state of
stopped
affairs is.
bringing about the best state of affairs, and at that point, God would not be all good.
No. My point is to say to reach the best state of affairs, you have to have a bad state of affairs. That's my perspective. So again, suffering is a necessary
Why?
for happiness. So you don't agree?
Wait, do you think miscarriages go to heaven?
I don't have a view on that.
Do you think babies go to heaven?
I'm pretty sure I would say so. I don't know anything.
Sure.
Again, I don't know if you guys can tell. I don't like to make concrete statements.
Yeah, so let's say that there's like a baby.
We grant that.
Let's say that there's like a baby that gets like evaporated in Hiroshima. Like it's like a newborn baby gets completely incinerated.
Sure.
The way a nuke works, you don't feel it. You're gone.
Yeah.
Like you don't feel any pain, any
Of
suffering
course,
at
yeah,
all.
it's instantaneous. Yeah,
So yeah, so this would be a baby that didn't suffer at all, that's in heaven. So
Sure.
you clearly don't need to suffer in order to get to heaven to get your like greatest, highest good.
Again, to me, I guess that's another thing I'd have to think about. But I guess under my view, for my intuitive instincts, I would probably argue that baby would either be reincarnated to live a full life, or something else. Or maybe the purpose of that baby was to illustrate, or give more, oomph to the experience of how terrible war is, and maybe quell war. I don't know. Who knows? I'm not all knowing, but. Yeah, I mean, to me, it doesn't matter if I hate saying I'm not God or I'm not anybody. How am I supposed to know where a baby goes? I'm just me.
Sure.
I think
mean,
it's this.
the problem is
Yeah.
that the baby's life is like there was no reason why the baby was born if it's just going to get reincarnated. The suffering becomes like
that's completely
irrelevant,
wrong.
and especially if the baby doesn't go to heaven.
But there
then you
was
have, like,
no
bigger
suffering according to you.
problems.
Hold on, wait. There was no suffering according to you. And going even further, if, for example, there's a, God forbid, like an attack and a child dies, that's a big impact. Like everybody has to look at that now and say, maybe this war isn't, all
Sure.
good, right? For example, Israel-Palestine, right? I mean, would you accept that?
Well, I don't think that. No, hold on, because I don't think that there's like some number of like dead babies that like I think. The conflict
I'm not saying it's
non-existing in the
justified at all.
first
I'm just trying to.
place- The conflict non-existing in the first place is a much better state of affairs than the conflict exists, and because the conflict exists,
100,000%.
then God didn't bring about the best state of affairs.
But again, okay, I don't think you're okay. Let me just explain this how I see it, and then maybe you could get where I'm coming from. Again, like in your life, right? I'll just use your life for perspective. Did you suffer?
Yeah, of course.
Was that the best state of affairs at the time?
There's some instances of suffering that are almost like completely irreconcilable with being the best state of affairs.
How do you determine whether suffering is reconcilable?
Yeah, if I stub my toe and I say, "Oh fuck," I don't realize. I have no idea what this could possibly lead to. No clue whatsoever what this could lead to.
So it's impossible to reconcile.
Yeah,
Essentially.
well, let's say I stub my toe right before bed, and then I go to sleep, and then I wake up at the usual time that I wake up.
Sure.
Then it just didn't cause anything. I went to sleep at the same time. I woke up at the same time.
But you think that's the totality of events?
Yeah, well,
That
because it's going to be the
Okay.
exact same world if I wake up at the exact same time and I don't feel the.
So
toe
you don't really
stub from
believe in a
earlier.
butterfly effect for things?
Not well, for certain things I do. For other things I don't. I don't see what the butterfly effect could possibly be in a scenario
You
where
wake
I
up a
stub
little
my
bit
toe.
you wake
Let's
up a
say-
little bit
but what
more
if I don't
angry
wake up a
tomorrow.
tad? What if I don't wake up a tad hurt in my toe? What if it goes away in like
There are
5
a
minutes?
billion trillion things that could possibly
Like
happen.
what?
I mean, I'm sure that you would agree if you really just took the time to think about it. If you stubbed your toe, right, and you woke up, I'm sure that would cause a difference in events, ever so slightly, for sure,
Like
maybe.
what?
But
How?
there are a million options. Your toe, you wake up with your toe, it hurts a little bit. You go to the
What if it
doctor.
doesn't?
Okay, you wake up, it doesn't hurt. Next time you're walking to your bedroom, you avoid stubbing your toe again, and you moved your foot differently, and then you come across a gold coin under your bed. My point is to say these assumptions are very
That would be
brazen.
magical, right? Like there's nothing of this sort
Magical?
of.
Oh, finding a coin, a penny under your bed would be magical?
I don't. Oh, I thought you said a gold coin.
No, it was just an example. My point is to say that there are a million
Yeah.
instances that could occur. Like
So
making a statement.
the problem is with the evidential problem of evil. This is only going to be equivalent to the likelihood that it leads to some greater good. So my question would just be, what's the evidence that every time I stubbed my toe led to some greater good? What would the evidence?
Again,
for that
you're looking for rational evidence, which
Yep.
my argument is I don't have, and
It's
you
the
don't have the
evidential-
context.
Well, wait, but it's the evidential problem of evil. So I provided you the evidence that we don't live in the best state of affairs. And
Yeah,
you can't
no, but I've
provide me
already
the
granted.
evidence that
What
we
I'm saying is
do.
I don't. No, I didn't say
So
we
it's
do.
a piece of
I
data
said,
that's wildly unexpected on your view, but makes perfect sense on mine.
I disagree. Hold on a minute. And I actually do agree. And let me just clarify. Again, like I said at the beginning, I don't believe in God rationally. I don't believe I could understand or rationally apprehend whether God exists or not. In fact, I think if I use my rational apprehension, I would lean toward not existing. But if I had to give you an answer, right, for this problem, again, even in the book that I was referring to earlier, the Christian guy doesn't even respond. He does respond, but he sort of says, I don't know. Or he agrees. He said, yeah, I would like end malaria, essentially. But yet he persists. I think it's an irrational longing toward ultimate goodness. I think it's, you ever hear of the Plantinga's thing? I think that's what
Yeah.
it's,
The free will
yeah,
defense,
it's sort of a
or
situation.
which
Yeah,
one?
well, it's the innate longing toward. I forgot the word for it. It's in a different language, if I remember properly. But
No,
it's
Plantinga is
this.
an English philosopher. Or no, he's an
Then
American philosopher.
then maybe the term I forgot the term. I'd have to again. It's not something I'm ultra familiar with, but I guess the fundamental idea is the longing for ultimate good is something completely irrational, yet is the driver for faith. Is in like essentially. Or this maybe I'm incorrect about this. I have to just triple check, but I guess that's the idea that I'm sort of referring to is, and maybe I can't give you a coherent rational answer or even understand it myself, but that doesn't mean I don't have this irrational implanted longing for the ultimate good. And that to me is something that is, of course, I'd say intuitively derivative of some objective truth. And again, that would be my
So
epistemological.
I guess I don't think I'm gonna believe in something that's like all things considered irrational. I don't think Blitz is either. But we've been talking for a while. I appreciate you coming on up. We're probably gonna move to the next.
Sure.
guest,
Hey,
though.
Ian.
Yep.
There's a
Sure.
dude. Get rid of him.
Which one?
The dude on the Video Ninja who just pulled out his wiener.
Oh. Bye.
Yeah, we should bring up Harris.
Hey, how's it going, Harris?
That's why we don't have people automatically bring their video up.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well, doing
How's
well.
it
How
going?
old are you?
17.
Oh, you gotta be 18. I'm so sorry.
You waited for so long.
Bro, I'm
What a
such an
sad
evil,
world we live
I
in.
feel like such an evil, cruel fuck, but it is terms of service. Make sure
Very
you're double tapping on that screen, leaving that like. If you want to come and debate us, we only have one person in the queue right now. If you want to come and debate us, you must be 18 or older. But you can join tinyurl.com/UA guest. You know that the dude, he was actually wiggling his toes around right in front of the camera. Gosh, what a guy. The one who whipped it out. What a dude. Hey, how's it going, Andre?
Yeah, what a world
Hey.
we live in. Andre, how?
Yeah, how old are you?
You guys can hear me?
Yes.
I'm
We
35.
can.
Yeah. What are your beliefs?
I'm Christian,
Sure.
Catholic Christian.
Why?
I just well, there was a long way going about 3 years,
Hello?
I think. It took me to convert.
Andre, is
and
there a way
finally
that you can
accept the
improve your
Christ, but
connection?
it has been longer.
Are you like shadowboxing with
What?
your microphone? Like what's going on?
I think it's
Oh,
a connection.
hold on a
Yeah,
second.
I've
It
been
could be.
Catholic for 3 years.
Okay, let me.
In the meantime, we do have some super chats.
Yeah.
Do
let
you hear me
so-
better now?
Uh,
I think so.
yeah, probably.
Should be. I think like something is up with my earphones.
We grant that. What's gonna be your evidence or reason why you believe?
Well, I would go probably one of the things that convinced
he's
me the
doing it
most
again.
was the. Oh, it's going again, right? Sorry, guys.
Okay. Why the fuck?
I tried to switch it off, but I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, this fucking guy. Yeah, it's
I
very
mean, like,
Christian
like-
of him.
It's nobody else can see it except us. So like, he's just embarrassing
I don't
himself.
know why.
Is it something going on in the
fucking
chat?
losing.
No,
He was just fucking rolling it around. He was just fucking twisting like a Twizzler.
I mean, not gonna lie, it was kind of
Okay.
small.
Yeah.
He's back.
Okay. There it is. Yeah, he's limp. Why is it limp?
It's so embarrassing for him.
Oh, what's going on?
Andre, sorry about that. So Ian,
No
you're gonna have to be
worries.
you're gonna have to be on the ball on just getting rid of him because
I'm gonna just turn
nobody
his
wants
Yeah,
him.
camera
no, all
off.
good, all good. I'm just
yeah,
like
no,
missing
no.
out on the action. Have no idea what's
No,
going on.
you don't want this. You don't want this action. So Andre, what would you say is the most compelling thing you could tell us that would convince
Yeah,
us
look,
that the Catholic
so
religion is true?
so the biggest one I think that was working for me was the prophecies, right? There was like a lot of them that Jesus fulfilled, but the most probably the prominent one was in Wisdom 2, which is
Wisdom
pretty
2?
much
I'm not familiar with that book.
So yeah, because it's like the Catholic book, right? I mean, like it's from the Catholic canon, and it wasn't a part of like a Protestant Bible of the 66 books. It was one of the 73 books that we have.
Oh,
And
the
that
Book
one,
of Wisdom or the Wisdom of Solomon. Okay, I'm familiar with it. That one?
yeah, the wisdom too, but it's not. It's called Wisdom of Solomon, right? But it was written in about like what 50 BC, so like very
Yeah.
close to the coming of Christ. But
So what's the
Wisdom 2.
prophecy in contention here?
So if you go to like verse 11 or 12, basically it starts and describes the Jesus life like from top to bottom, like all the way like it like as it was
looking at it
written
right
after
now.
Jesus.
I'm looking at it right now. Am I looking at the right thing? It's you're talking about Wisdom chapter 2, verse
Yeah.
11. We'll call ourselves right if we are strong enough to get what we want. No one ever got anywhere by being weak. Righteous people are nothing but a nuisance. So let's look for chances to get rid of that. Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah. So then I think
So where's the
next one
prophecy?
over there it says like, let us lie and wait for the righteous man.
They claim to know God, blah blah blah. They are not like other people. They
Can you just read the whole thing over there, because you're gonna understand what I'm talking
I started
about.
at verse 11, which is what you said, right?
Yeah, like so that it starts with let us lie and
Do
wait
you have
for the
do you have a
righteous
preferred
man.
translation?
I don't think I have a preferred translation. I think like any will do, because I don't think there's most of them like it's not like the most common one. Like there's not as many translations for that verse, because not a lot of Protestants take it as the scripture.
So, yeah, I'm looking for the line that you said and I don't see it. You're saying something about like let us lie and wait.
For the righteous man, because his ways are inconvenient
okay, so
to
I
us.
think so I see. I'm looking at the at the GNT translation, the Good News translation, because that's one of the only translations I could find. And so I see this is verse 17, but we'll see if that's true. Let's see what will happen when it's time for them to die. If the righteous really are God's children, God will save them from their enemies. So let's put them to the test. We'll be cruel to them and torment them. Then we'll find out how calm and reasonable they are. We'll find out just how much they can stand. We'll condemn them to a shameful death. After all, they say that God will protect them. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So it's just talking about torturing someone to death. But like that happens to a lot of people.
it is precisely talking about the Jesus. Like if you say, like, let me read
Why?
it from.
Well, not. It doesn't say
Look,
anything about
look,
crucifixion. Go ahead.
here's how it goes. Let us lie in wait for the righteous man, because he is inconvenient to us and opposes our action. He reproaches us for sins against the law and accuses us of sins against our training. He professes to have knowledge of God and calls himself the Son of the Lord. He become a
I'm not
reproof.
seeing this anywhere.
Okay,
What
Wait,
translation are you looking at?
Revised Standard Version.
Okay, let me look at the RSV, because that's what I was looking for, but didn't. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Wait, the guy is
verse-
back, but I fucking assaulted his video settings. Enjoy 0 frame rates, you fuck.
Okay, so I think I found it. So right, right. Let's. Okay, I found the translation you have.
Yeah, because you clearly are reading way better than I am, so like spare the suffering of
So
the
I can read
audience.
this. So the translations that I was looking at, the translation that you were looking at, were very, very different, which is worrying because I don't know what language it was originally written in, and so I
It
don't
was
know.
written in Greek.
Okay, so I'll just read the relevant verses from the RSV, which is, he professes to have knowledge of God and calls himself a child of the Lord. He became to us a reproof of our thoughts. The very sight of him is a burden to us. And earlier he talks about he reproaches us for sins against the law. The translation I was reading earlier was using plural language.
The plural,
They
right?
do this. They do that. So my question is because like when read in the plural, it's very evident just like talking about like bad people. But here it's trying to, it's using individual language. So I'm curious what the actual translation is.
Yeah,
I'm
it
curious
kind of
what
like makes
words are being
no
used.
sense. It doesn't make any sense if it would be a plural, but uh, I don't know.
So
I haven't read it in the original one, but I'm just this is one of the things that was like almost give me chills regarding that thing. But yeah,
I just Googled it just because I wanted to see what the just like when the Book of Wisdom was written. Apparently, it's dated sometime between the mid first century BC or the reign of Caligula, which is after Jesus died. So I mean, maybe it's
what?
talking about Jesus, but maybe it was written about Jesus, or maybe it's not talking about Jesus, and maybe it's written about like a group of evil people. It's
No.
not super clear.
So like BC is before Jesus died,
Yeah, no.
right?
So I mean, I'm just on Wikipedia, so who knows? Maybe that's not trustworthy. But it says it's generally dated to the mid first century BC or to the reign of
Yeah.
Caligula, which is 5 years after Jesus died.
Right. Yeah, because if it 5 years after Jesus died makes also kind of no sense, because that would be considered the first gospel then, but it wasn't because it's just way too detailed. But like you said, probably like I haven't seen the Greek one, so the fact that you read the different translation and it sounded like quite different. For sure. Anyways, I wanted to ask, because I think I come across your video, like your stream a couple weeks ago, and you guys are holding up to the theory that the universe has been eternal or something like that.
I mean, I lean that way.
Like, you know that it's like a very fringe theory, right?
Not so fringe.
How not so fringe? Like about 2 to 5% of scientists like taking it.
Oh, where are you getting that number from?
I'm not sure. I thought like Big Bang Theory was a mainstream.
Big Bang Theory is mainstream, but that doesn't imply that there is a beginning.
Mhm.
A poll was taken quite recently of, cosmologists. These are cosmologists and relativists. These are people who study the Big Bang and people who study black holes and things like that. 68% of them said that the Big Bang had nothing to do with the beginning of time.
How so?
That's their understanding of the theory, that it doesn't say anything about whether time had a beginning or not, whether the universe had a beginning or not.
Right. So it's like technically it's like circular and stuff.
No, the Big Bang, the modern scientific understanding of the Big Bang is that, of the Big Bang theory, the way that we understand the evolution of the universe, is that it tells us that 13.8 billion years ago, the observable universe was very small and very hot, and in the subsequent moments, it expanded quite rapidly, and it's been expanding ever since. But it doesn't say anything about like that was the beginning of time, or that it was a singularity, or that that it couldn't have existed prior to that. It says nothing about any of that.
Well, if it was hot and super dense, it probably does sound like a singularity. At some
A
point, the
singularity is a
gravity
very-
becomes infinite, right?
So no, it's not infinitely dense. It's very dense. So it's not necessarily singular. Singularity means something very specific. It means that, density goes to infinity, gravitational pull goes to infinity, these kinds of things. But if it's just hot and dense, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily singular.
Right. So, but there's still something triggered it, right? The expansion.
Yeah, and the Big Bang Theory says nothing about what the cause is.
Right. So it's up for grabs, right? Like it could be like nothing, or it could be God.
I mean, in principle, I guess.
It could also be a lot of other
It could
things,
have always
right?
existed. Yeah, there's a lot of options.
Well, yeah. Okay, it's either God or not God. Like
Sure.
let's go there.
Yeah,
Like,
we
it's
think it's
either
not God,
either
yeah.
God or other causes that are quasi-natural or whatever, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, we're of the opinion
So-
that it's going to fall into one of the not God ones.
Yeah. Okay, but I'm just trying to understand in a way, because like I thought that you guys are like if universe is eternal, that there is not much of proof for that as well, right? Because you guys are kind of like inclining to that there is like no initial cause.
Well, to be clear, we would never say that the reason why we don't believe in God is because the universe is eternal. These are just not like the argument that we would use. But if your argument is that God exists because the universe isn't eternal, well, then the burden is just on you to demonstrate that.
Why the burden is on me to
Because
demonstrate
you're
that?
trying to use this piece of evidence as evidence for your worldview. So you're
But
trying to
is
reason
there any
from
cause
the
without the
beginning.
cause?
Well, we don't think that the universe was caused, or it's at least possible that the universe wasn't caused. And if God doesn't exist, then the universe just wouldn't be caused.
Well, if we know that everything has been caused by something before that, then the logical step is that the universe has been caused by something, rather than it hasn't had a cause, right? I mean,
Was
like
God
the
caused by
chances are,
something?
like caused into existence, or like to expansion, or whatever it
God
was.
was
Like even if it
caused?
was like, huh?
God was caused?
No, I'm saying the universe has been caused. Not
But-
universe is not God. God caused the universe into existence. Like that's what my belief is, or whatever your understanding is. The God would be over the theory, so it would be a cause of whatever you guys believe. I'm not sure what you believe, but let's say Big Bang, right? In my opinion, the God causing the Big Bang would be a way more rational explanation, rather than nothing caused it.
Well, wait, we don't think that nothing caused it. We never did we say that?
Oh, okay, like, but you said that God is not real, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
wait,
there
but
could be other causes.
Yeah, did we say nothing caused it, or is this like something that was just like imposed onto us?
Okay, maybe a straw manning over here, but like I'm just
grant
trying to understand. Like, okay, if then what happened? Like, what are you holding to, if not God, for that initial cause of whatever? Like you grant that there is no like infinite events before the existence, right? There is a finite events before.
No, don't grant that.
Okay, so there is an infinite events before.
Well, no, I don't grant that there isn't an infinite amount of events before. There very well
Okay.
could be, or there very well could not be. But I'm not willing
Okay,
to
but
grant
what is
that it's
more
definitely
likely?
the case. I don't think that we have the evidence to establish which one's more likely.
But how come? Because we have
Because
the
we
causes.
just don't have the data.
Okay, but we have causes we have effects that have causes, right? But we never have effects without any cause. Like we
I
don't
mean,
have
so
any
so to be
single.
clear, the language of like modern physics is not the language of causes and effects. That's like 2,000 years out of date.
So what is the language?
The
I'm just
language of
trying
physics
to.
is equations, right? And an equation doesn't have a cause and effect. It just has this thing is equal to that thing, or this thing is greater than that thing, and so on. That's how we
Yeah,
describe
but
the universe. We describe the universe mathematically.
okay, but like even if you describe it mathematically, right? Like eventually you would come to that, like that self-moving mover, right?
Why?
Like if we're talking about, like, let's say a locomotive, and you look at the wagons of going, like you look at the like middle of the train and you see wagons, you kind of assume that there would be some train, like in the like it kind of implies that there's supposed to be a wagon that will not be moved by any wagon before it. It will be moving by itself, which is like locomotive, and you can
So
build the equations from it.
so the point is that there are some equations that can be intuitively understood as, cause and effect, and there are other equations that cannot be intuitively understood as cause and effect. Just because something cannot be understood intuitively as cause and effect doesn't mean that it's not physical. Examples include like kind of timeless beginnings. These are things that at least we have like mathematical descriptions of. But it doesn't really make sense to talk about like a thing being caused if it's a timeless beginning, meaning that it
No, what
began
is
to
the time?
exist. Go ahead.
What's the beginning? Is it like a love doesn't have a beginning, or I don't know, like darkness doesn't have a beginning, or something?
No,
Something like this.
so like what I'm referring to here is like a Hartle-Hawking state. So which is a description of like how time can begin in a causeless way. And that is wholly unintuitive. But the mathematics makes perfect sense. And so like we just have to be like, yeah, so it's plausible that our intuitions about causes and effects are super, super good when we're talking about bowling balls and airplanes, but they're just not good intuitions to have when we're talking about the origins of the universe.
Well, I probably wouldn't agree with this, and a lot of people would have hard times understanding, like just anything close to that. But like the more simpler explanation, even if there is a Big Bang, and there is and we don't absorb the effects without any causes, that there would be a cause. It's more rational
Andre.
solution.
So Andre, 3,000 years ago, if you asked the ancient Greeks, hey, what's a simpler explanation for lightning? That there's a man in the sky who throws lightning bolts, or that there are these subatomic particles that are cascading down from space and crash into water molecules, and that causes static electricity to build up, and when that static electricity gets sufficiently big, there's a chain reaction of cascading electrons. They'd say, like, yeah, obviously it's simpler if Zeus is on top of Mount Olympus throwing lightning bolts. Why would we ever believe this other absurd, overly complicated thing? But it turns out that it's the complicated thing that's true.
Well, I'm not sure that if you would ask Greek, that everybody of them would answer that, because it's like more like their religious beliefs were not so solidified, like in a way that they would
okay, but treat it as a metaphor then. The point is that you can have simple explanations that are wildly wrong just because they're simple, but which isn't helped by the fact that they're simple.
Okay, fair enough, but we are like advanced enough
right.
as the society,
right? We have quantum mechanics, and quantum mechanics leads us to the conclusion that actually, there are some things that are not well explained by cause and effect.
Correct.
Oh, and that would be and the example of the thing that I gave you, like a timeless, uncaused beginning, that we have a good mathematical description for, is one of those things. And just because it's not intuitive doesn't mean that it's impossible or that it's less likely.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying, like, whatever is outside the time and outside of space and the matter, that's what I call God. It's just like in a way that is we cannot really fully grasp the thing because we cannot think outside of our like our cognitive functionality, no matter like how much we try. So whatever it is, like that is outside of the time, outside of matter, and outside of the space. That's what I would call God. Um,
But that just
yeah,
doesn't
it's just
capture like the Christian notion of God, because then you would be
it
required
does.
to say then you would be required to say something that like a spaceless universe or a timeless universe filled with quantum fields with a complex time-like coordinate, that's God. You'd be obligated to say that if that's where the evidence leads.
I
But
wouldn't
like
say I would
that's
be obligated to say that. I would be saying that it's probably one of the aspects of the God of God.
but I
Something
mean
that
that's just not compatible with like the Catholic position, right?
why not?
The Catholic position isn't supposed to be like made of like fundamental fields. The Catholic
Yeah.
God isn't supposed to be made
Yeah,
of like
it's supposed to be
fundamental fields.
immaterial. That's like all that stuff is physical.
Yeah, like so the God is by definition is outside of time, space, and matter. So whatever is within time, space, and matter is just like a part of the creation. So I'm not sure I'm pretty sure it's compatible with Catholicism.
Do you think God was
Like,
eternally creating the universe?
yeah.
Then the universe just would have existed eternally, which means that you believe that it just always existed.
No, I'm what I believe. I believe more that that the God created the universe, like in whatever state it is. If it was Big Bang, it doesn't contradict with the philosophy of the uh, of the God.
Maybe we need to run
And
that one back because that's just a direct contradiction to what you agreed to. Do you think that God was always eternally creating the universe?
no, like I don't believe that he was always eternally creating the universe, but I also
Then he
probably wouldn't be
changes.
able to understand how it is outside of the universe, outside of time and space. For me, it's a little bit hard to like grasp and understand.
But
If
then
you would go to like a quantum mechanics and stuff, I don't really know much about quantum mechanics. I'm like dealing more with like regular physics probably.
then why would we go there? Let's just stay with this. So if God was not always eternally creating the universe, that means that God would have gone from a state where he wasn't creating the universe to a state where he was. Do you agree?
Yes.
So then he changes.
Yes, like the God changes.
Yeah, God changes.
Could be a category error over there, like in terms of like God is completely different category, like altogether. So whatever you say, like if it's creation, something that what we would comprehend from the God, but God is beyond our understanding.
But he changes. If he went from a state where he wasn't creating the universe to a state where he was creating the universe, that's a change. Those don't
It
happen
implies
unless you're in time.
Yeah, it implies that time existed before the time was created, right?
Yeah. So
Well,
that can't be.
I cannot really argue over here because I have no idea how God works in that situation. Like how I trying to understand it, right? I'm chemical engineer and I'm running simulations. So like if I run the simulation for the chemical plant, let's say, right? I'm the god for that simulation. I can pause, I can rewind, I can do whatever I want. Technically, I'm a god of that micro universe, and that's how I see God is doing to us. Except because he is all knowing and outside of time, matter, and space, he definitely knows how it works out.
But the simulator necessarily is in time. Like you couldn't run a simulation if you're out of time. For the exact reason that I just laid out. Either you were eternally creating the simulation, in which case you actually never created it because you just did that eternally. It would have existed. The alternative is that you weren't always creating the simulation. But if you're outside of time, then that's a contradiction. If you're outside of time, you don't have any past or future states. You only have one present state. So you can't go from one state to the next state because you only have one state.
Well, that is a claim, right? It's not a fact. It's
Which part of that would you
it's
reject?
like it's a mind kind of like sort of mind experiment, right?
Which part of that
Like
would you
if
reject?
you would say that I cannot create simulation outside of time, yeah, I would agree with that. But in a way, I'm just providing the analogy for something that I cannot really fully understand. Like, we cannot really describe God 100%. We can only just come up with some sort of metaphors and
It
sort
leads
of
to
comparisons.
contradictions. So either God was always creating the universe or he was not always creating the universe. But it can't be either of those. Both of those lead to contradictions.
So like how God in Bible says that his name is I am, which in my understanding that he is being by himself, like, so within him he can create the time, he can create the matter, he can create,
He
like how
can't.
it
Those are
happens. I have
contradictions.
no idea. But
It's
it's
contradictory.
just like I'm saying that you probably have a valid point of saying like probably the God does not exist. I'm saying that I have just as valid point, if not more valid point, than yours for saying that he does exist.
We just disproved your
It's
point.
way more valid.
We just disproved it. You can't respond to the argument.
Like the fact that
which premise of the argument do you reject?
I reject the argument that there's a
premise?
time needed to create time.
That wasn't part of the argument.
Okay, can you
So-
run me through quickly?
Either God was always creating the universe or he was not always creating the universe. Do you agree?
Oh, like always creating is continuous state. Like the universe is created, right? Maybe he's sustaining the universe. I don't
So you
know
would
if
say that he was not always creating the universe.
I don't think he was always creating the
Okay.
universe.
So then God was not always creating the universe. If God was not always creating the universe, then he would need to go from a state where he was creating the universe to a state, or where he was not creating the universe, to a state where he was creating the universe. And then it sounds like from what you just said, back to a state where he was not creating the universe.
Yeah.
So that's a change.
Right.
So
Yeah. So it like the time, the creation of time, in a way requires the time, right? Or like
just like the creation of
requires
the universe requires change. Do you agree?
Well, I agree that it requires a trigger, like a starting point. So
But it
a change
requires
from
a change in God, correct?
So like from nothing to everything, right?
No, God would change from not creating to creating.
Let's say yes.
Okay, then God isn't outside of time, because if you're outside of time, you don't have past or future states. Would you agree that if you're outside of time, then you don't have past or future states?
Yes, which is exactly what God is. He is.
If you don't have past or future states, can you change?
Within him, there could be a time created. There could be a change within him.
Would you agree that if you're outside of time that you don't have past or future states, and if you don't have past or future states, then you can't change?
I have no idea about like it. It logically sounds, but it's not 100%. You cannot know
Why
it. I
not?
cannot know it.
Well, but you can't reject a premise. Like all the premises are just like obviously true.
Yeah. Okay. How this contradicts?
Yeah.
Like it could be that
God
there
would
is
both
time outside
change-
of our universe, right?
God, well, no, because we know that time is physical. That's why it gets affected by physical things like gravity.
Well, the God created heavens, right? So like there is heaven. So at least in a way, how I see heavens is just like another extra dimension. So
The same
there
problem
could be a time
applies-
existing within that. Huh?
So did the heaven time exist prior to heaven's creation?
Did the time exist prior to heaven's creation?
Yeah, so you're saying that heaven has heaven time, right?
I suppose it would. Like I don't know, but I'm just
Then
saying
God didn't create
that
it. God's not the source of things. So you actually, interestingly enough, you actually think that it's possible that like some higher order time actually always existed, but earlier in the conversation you couldn't comprehend the idea that the universe had always existed.
I cannot comprehend the eternal universe, like in a way that
Can you comprehend the eternal God?
I cannot comprehend the eternal God. That
So then what's the problem?
There's the whole point. There's the whole point.
Whatever comprehension you're applying or lack thereof you're allowing for God, just apply it to the universe, and now you have no issue.
I can imagine that there is just like a universe being just in a static state for like God knows how long until that big trigger that that happened 13 billion years ago. Something had to trigger that change, right?
Perhaps.
So
Depends on what you mean by trigger. And it depends on how you view cause and effect, which we've already been over.
I also don't think that we defend, like we're not necessarily committed to like a static state. It could be that the universe was just always changing.
Yeah, but there is no evidence for that either.
Is there evidence that God existed eternally?
Yes, that's the definition of God.
Oh well, we can just,
God
if you're
is,
defining
man.
it,
That's the definition
well, then that's
of
just
it.
the definition of the universe. We'll say.
Look,
It's just the definition of an eternal
here is
universe
what I'm
is that
trying
it's
to
eternal.
imply over here, right? It's just like it's more likely that God exists than not.
You haven't been able to demonstrate that.
Hello, I don't hear you.
You haven't been able to demonstrate that.
What's going on? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Well.
Okay, I think I lost the sound, guys.
Oh no. Well, we appreciate you coming on up.
So before we bring up the next guest, we have some super chats which I can read.
Yeah, go for it.
So, from Space Lord of 75 with the $5, Dr. Blitz Q about virtual particles. Do we surmise they exist because we see state A, then C, and B, the virtual between them is likely? Thanks. Virtual particles don't exist. They're a myth. They're made up. They're mathematical fiction. Nada. Nonsense. Wrong. Virtual particles are a mathematical tool to make organizing field theory calculations easier. But we don't like kind of by definition they don't exist. They're not things that like are even in principle detectable. There's no reason to think that they exist when they just arise purely mathematically. Hard work with the $5. Thank you too for what you do. Appreciate you too.
No, thank you.
Aaron Leitz with the $10. Justin said make him read the whole chapter. It's not about Jesus. Let's go team. Love you guys. Yeah, I haven't read Wisdom before, so I wouldn't know. But yeah, Andre, if you're still watching, go read the whole chapter. I guess it's not about Jesus. If you're watching YouTube, TikTok, ideally on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube and you want to support either Beanie, wherever he is, either the Beanie guy or the chalkboard guy, there's a way to do it, and it's called a super chat, and then we'll read it.
Yeah.
So do that.
Alternatively, you can come into the guest box and beat the fuck out of your meat. That would also support it. I'm kidding. Don't do that.
That is not legal advice.
Yeah.
All right, we have another guest.
Bro, I've been that dude like tried to like rejoin like 8 different fucking times. Oh my god.
I know. And then a second guy, a different guy.
No, he's the same. It has to be the same guy.
I don't know.
I'm convinced. I'm convinced it's the same guy.
It looked different.
He showed his face. Oh, it looked different is insane. No, he showed his face at some point. Damn, I wish there was like internal recording. I'd get to the bottom and I'd computer, analyze this dude's face. Analyze this dude's dick, computer. No, I'm kidding. All right, let's go on to the next one.
We have the autistic deist.
The autistic deist.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
We can hear you.
How's it going?
Okay, good. It's going well. How are you guys?
Doing pretty good.
All right. How are you?
Good. I don't know if you can see me.
We cannot, but we're not going to put on your video in case you pull out your wiener.
Yeah.
I promise you that is definitely not a thing that would happen.
Okay. Well, we're not gonna risk that. So.
Definitely, probably a good idea considering what you guys say has occurred before. Yeah, so I guess I'll start with a question.
Before you
Because
start, what do you believe? It's just good for providing context.
that was going to be my question actually for the exact same context. Obviously
we're
from
atheists.
right, but how do you guys feel about deism? And to answer your question, of course, I'm a deist, but it's an agnostic deism in that I believe in God somewhat as a semantic, more so than anything concrete or literal or along those sense. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Buddhist. I don't believe in any kind of organized religion. But
Sure. When you say
I
semantic, are you saying that it has like ontology exclusively in language?
in description to something, but not necessarily something that is known or even knowable. Not necessarily something that meets the standard criteria for what most people, I would imagine, actually think of as God.
Do you believe a mind
I
created
mean,
the universe? Oh, geez, voice crack. Do you believe a mind created the universe?
likely not. That's the thing. I mean, a lot of people look at God as some kind of consciousness. What if God isn't conscious? What if God isn't even necessarily all powerful? What if it's just expending its energy or some kind of what if it's just the underpinning of physics? What if it's just
Well, then we
underpinning
wouldn't call it
everything in
God.
existence?
Yeah, that's not
Well,
Wouldn't call it
exactly,
God
and that's
then.
where the semantics comes into play. I mean, it's why would you call it God? But at the same time, it's probably the closest definition that we could get to it. It's just not what most people would think of as God, if that makes
Well, look,
sense.
so people the way that we ascribe definitions to things is the way that people use them. And like most people, the way that they use God is pulling at some idea that there is a mind that is responsible for the universe in some way. That's how most people,
Right.
at least most English speakers, use God. So when we say God isn't real, that's what we're talking about. If you're saying, well, maybe if we define God as like the laws of physics, then God is real. And then like maybe you're right, but it's just not what we mean when we say we're atheists. We're not atheists towards the laws of physics, right?
I know. Well, there's that certainty. There's the uncertainty. I mean to say that is part of that semantics that I'm talking about as well. And you look at Einstein, for example, and I hate name dropping Einstein because like he had his incredible faults as well, and he was wrong about some stuff as well. I don't name drop that as to try to inflate any point, but he was a deist as well, and he believed essentially along the same lines that I do, in that when he said God doesn't play dice, he never really talked about a literal anything. To him, it was just admitting that he knew that there was something going on and that it wasn't unknown. You talk about
So-
God of the gaps, it's almost like the opposite of the God of the gaps. It's like I'm comfortable not knowing. Like I know that
So-
there's something going on, but I don't know what it is.
Look, so the point is that it seems like under your view and under my view and under allegedly Ian's view, allegedly Ian's view, it seems like we don't actually disagree on the facts of what exists.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, at that point, it's just we're just bickering over labels.
Yeah, I'm not
So-
like I like
Semantic.
the metaphysical dispute. I'm not really interested in like a language dispute of like, well, is it right to call this thing God? If all you mean by God is like the laws of physics, I don't know
whatever
why.
is responsible for the behavior of the universe.
Yeah, I just don't know why we would
Well-
call this God. It seems like we just don't disagree on anything.
Well, I'm not necessarily coming here to debate or to disagree with anything. I'm looking more along the lines of a discussion and see what kind of concepts we could explore together. I mean, that's why I wanted to start out with the question: how do you guys feel about deism? In the sense, and in that
So-
most deists, well, you could probably separate deists into two groups. There's the deists who just like to more or less make their religious view or their theistic view kind of friendly for everybody, and they just, Jordan Peterson sometimes calls himself a deist, and then other times a Christian, depending on who he's talking to, just for the sake of his own lubricated social whatever he's got going on. But deism is also just more or less keeping somewhat of an open mind, but not so open that your brain falls out, in a sense, and that you're aware of certain possibilities, and they don't necessarily have to be certain ones. We could be brains in a jar. Like, the universe could be a simulation, that there's something that we
So-
don't necessarily know that's like underpinning stuff. It could be conscious, maybe. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily completely refute the notion that there wasn't some sort of consciousness behind the universe, but at the same time, it's just as equally valid to suggest that there isn't, and then that we just don't know. It's to explore that unknown in and of itself. And if you want to call that God, or if you believe in a higher power in some sense along those lines, and even if you want to throw out a prayer in desperation because like you have nothing else left, that's not necessarily a form of madness. It's just an exploration.
It just sounds like we don't disagree on anything.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we're only looking for debates. This is like a debate stream. So, and I hate that you waited so long, but I think
Does
we're
feel
probably going to
bad.
move on to the next one. But I appreciate
All
coming
right,
on
give her.
up. How's it going, the living force?
It's good.
Yeah.
And you?
Doing well. How old are you?
I can't hear them,
41.
by the way.
You can't, what?
I have no idea who you're talking to.
What?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
He can
Okay,
hear you.
I can't see who you're talking to. Maybe have them leave and come back.
Oh, wait. Living force, can you leave and come back? Just for the sake of Dr. Blitz. Won't anyone think of Dr. Blitz?
Nobody will.
Won't a nice university
Will I lose my space and
administrator think of Dr. Blitz? No, you won't. We'll bring you right back up.
I just need a fan who's on a hiring committee to be like, that guy,
Yeah.
that guy.
Nepotism. No, you won't lose your place, Living Force. Just refresh and come back in.
Yeah, that's...
Okay, refresh the web page. We'll
Yep.
do.
Can the audience hear him? Could the audience hear him? Okay. Dr. Blitz. It's a skill issue on the part of Dr. Blitz.
Skill issue. I can refresh and come back, but that will that screw up
you're
the
good, you're
background?
good. No. Well, maybe. It might. Yeah, let's get this, get him on in here.
I still don't see him.
I think he's still connected. Yeah, there he is. Do you see him?
And I see him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
We all here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what religion are you?
Not religious, more spiritual. I
Do
believe spirit flows through all things.
you think a mind created the universe?
A human mind?
No.
No.
Just a mind.
Yeah.
A mind. Good question. Not as we could perceive it.
What do we disagree about?
Oh, so you agree with spirit flows through all things?
I don't know what it means to say that like spirit flows through all things, but I don't know. There's like interpretations of that I might not mind. I don't know. What does that mean? What's define spirit?
Energy flow through a given system?
Well, we agree that energy flows through given systems.
Okay.
What do we disagree on?
Well, you don't believe in God, and I do. So that
When you say God, what do you mean?
God, a being outside space and time that may have manifested all of this.
Okay. Does God have a mind?
That's a God of a mind?
Does God have a mind?
Does the God have a mind?
I think he's above that?
I don't really know what that means, but okay. What's the evidence that your God exists?
Evidence that God exists. Asymmetric reality.
What does that mean?
Can you elaborate on that?
Well, from my knowledge, like the universe is a bit asymmetrical.
What does that mean?
And what does that mean?
Yeah.
That opposite charges eventually annihilate each other, but somehow they didn't in this universe.
Like Hegelian dialectics?
No, this is baryon asymmetry.
Okay.
This is why is there matter? Why is there so much matter and so little antimatter? I think that's what you're referring to.
I believe so. Yeah, you have a PhD in this, I believe, or in this realm, Dr. Blitz. So yeah, you would know a little bit more about the mathematics of that than I.
But so the claim is just that there is an unsolved problem in physics, so God must be the answer?
What would your answer be?
I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
I think it's an unsolved problem. The baryon asymmetry problem is an unsolved problem.
Yeah. Why don't we just
think
wait
that
until we get a solution?
Yeah.
So what if there's never a solution in your lifetime?
Then I'll die not knowing.
Yeah.
So what happens after death?
I don't think we know that.
I don't know. I suspect nothing, but you know,
Yeah.
could be
Nothing.
wrong.
So you came from nothing, will go to nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, like
that's-
our consciousness
that's
didn't
roughly
exist
my position.
before.
So
I
what's
mean, we
the
came
point
from
of this?
atoms, and then we'll stay as atoms. The atoms and energy will just get dispersed. We'll just be like a different configuration of atoms.
So you're materialist, that this is all there is.
Not quite.
If you want to use that word, sure.
I don't know. I
mean, we gotta agree on words to have a proper debate, correct?
I would call myself a physicalist, not a materialist.
I might call myself like a Russellian physicalist. I might believe that there's like certain qualia at the foundation of reality. Reality. At the foundation of reality, there might be like certain like qualia, like proto-phenomenal experience, but it's still going to fall under physicalism.
Which is distinct from materialism. That's why I was being weaselly.
Okay. Well, I didn't think you as a weasel.
Well, no, I didn't. That's why I was being like wishy-washy with the language. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Language does that. It'd be like that.
Yep. So, yeah, I think that, you know, I didn't exist. My mind didn't exist prior. It's very likely that it won't exist after my death. It totally could. I just have no reason to think that. And I would rather, if I don't have any evidence to suggest one way or the other, I could either appeal to like prior probability. So in this case, it seems more parsimonious to say that, well, nothing happens. You simply stop existing. Your mind simply stops existing after you die. That seems more parsimonious than saying that there's like an additional realm of existence. Unless I have evidence for this realm of existence, I'm not going to add it to my worldview.
Okay. From my understanding, there is a possibility of 11 dimensions, possibly 26, depending on the math you use.
Yeah, but they're
Dr.
little. They're very, very little.
They're little. So wound down into
Very, very small.
Infinitely small.
Not infinitely small, just very small.
Measurably small.
Yeah, like we could put a scale on them. They'd be like 10 to the minus 35 meters or something like this. Like smaller
You know
than
what
a
else
proton.
was 10 to the minus 35 meters?
That guy's penis.
Let's go up top.
So from what I've seen and what I've read and viewed online is that the more we go to find what makes up the atom, okay, electrons, protons, neutrons, the further and further we look down, the more it's divisible, and it's continually divisible from what we've discovered.
So as far as we know, you can't break up an electron, say, into pieces. It can't be divided. Similarly with quarks. Similarly with
electrons were made of quarks.
No, quarks make up protons and neutrons, not electrons.
So electrons are just an energy field.
I wouldn't say that. I would say that electrons are just electrons. At least as far as we can tell. Now, maybe if we build a particle collider the size of the solar system, maybe we can smash electrons together and find out that there's littler things inside them. But, we have no evidence that supports that.
Are photons, are they divisible?
No.
So
Well,
those
okay, you can break them up into more photons, but
infinitely.
in a sense, yeah.
So where does that energy come from? If you can break it
What
down
energy?
infinitely. That breaks the laws of conservation,
No,
doesn't it?
the energy the energy is still conserved. So like if you have one photon and you split it into two, each one has half the energy.
So if it interesting. These are new ideas.
Well, that one's a pretty old idea.
Oh, well, new idea to me.
Fair. But what does this have to do with the existence of a creator being?
Yeah.
Creator being. I said spirit flows through all things.
But when asked if... Go ahead.
Well, if all you mean by that is energy, then it seems like we just don't disagree.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I needed to talk further to understand your basis.
Do you disagree with any of that?
Disagree with any of what?
Any of like what was said?
About photons being divisible and it's a fundamental particle?
Yeah.
I don't
like
have
why,
enough information.
I guess like why from any of this, like why would you infer that like therefore there's something that exists outside of time?
Why would I infer that there's something outside of time?
Yeah.
Intuition?
Based on what?
Lived experiences.
So just like spiritual experiences?
Oh, well, normal experience as well.
Like what?
That's a vague question. Could you please restate it and redefine?
Yeah. What normal experience leads you to the conclusion that there's something that exists outside of space and time?
I have a limited sensory apparatus in this physical form, and I think there's more.
Why?
Intuition.
Based on I have the opposite intuition, so
I mean, I actually agree with you. I think that there's stuff that we can't perceive, but we can measure it nonetheless. Right? We have
Do you think
an
we can
X-ray
measure
telescope.
everything, though?
I don't think that we can measure everything now, but I think that if it exists physically and it interacts with our universe, then it should be measurable, yeah. I mean, that's just kind of what it means to interact. Like, it could be that there's like there could be like a whole separate universe that just doesn't interact with our universe at all, and then no, we could never detect that because kind of definitionally. But anything that could possibly interact with our universe, I think that in principle should be measurable, yeah.
So where's consciousness derived from?
the
Or
brain
gravitation?
mass.
Well, gravitation comes from mass, energy, momentum, stress, pressure.
Damn, I'm feeling a lot of
but-
gravity right now.
I mean, but like, and it seems like consciousness comes from brains doing brain things. At least seems plausible.
Yeah.
Seems intuitive.
Okay, yeah, maybe we don't have a debate here. Maybe I'm just more inquisitive.
Yep.
Thank you for your time.
Hey, thanks for coming up. Appreciate it. Do we have
Do we have any more
supers?
super chats? We don't. People are slacking today.
Yeah, these fucking guys. What do we? Chopped liver. We feed you, we bathe you, we clothe you.
We provide free content.
No, I'm kidding. But if you want to, there's super chats on YouTube. Hey, Revy, how's it going?
Hello?
Hey,
Can you hear me?
look, there's a super chat. Thanks, Aaron Leitz.
Can you hear me? Hello?
We'll read it later.
Yeah. Revy, can you hear us?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, sure.
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. Okay.
What do you believe?
I believe in God. I believe I'm a Christian, so that's my argument, I guess. You guys are just what, like science?
Well, lots of things, right? Like science, philosophy. Science covers some things, philosophy covers other
Mathematics.
things. Yeah.
What do you think philosophy covers that science doesn't cover? Like, I'm just curious from
Sure. So, like metaphysics, for example, ethics, epistemology, all of these are things that are covered by philosophy, or yeah, they're like matters of like philosophical dispute. Like, how do we know what we know? That's like a philosophical question. You know, what's the fundamental nature of things? That's a philosophical question. Like, what should you do? That's a philosophical question. So I think philosophy covers those.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Okay. So I guess your argument is that God is not real. It can be all described by science or philosophy.
Yeah, like in theory, yeah, right. Like we might not
Okay.
have the explanation on us, but we would say that for like anything that we can't explain, there's going to be an equivalent thing that you also won't be able to explain, like why God would want it this way. You wouldn't be able to explain.
Right, exactly. Thank you. Okay, so I have a I guess a prompt or question, right? So in my opinion, the reason why I follow Jesus is because I think he's the most loving example of God compared to the other religions. And that's because I can't say certain words, right? Because it's TikTok.
Yeah, we'll just like be careful.
Okay, I'll keep it. Okay.
You can say like unalived. You can say
Yeah, okay. So the reason why he he unalived for us on the cross, I feel so dumb saying that, but the reason why he did that was for sacrifice. He sacrificed for our sins, and I think that's the display of the greatest act of love displayed. Now,
What's
let's
the
say-
evidence for that though? Like, what's the evidence that he like reincarnated or was?
well, that's based on faith. But I'm saying that's the story, right? That's the story that you know of.
So you say that he sacrificed, but like, what did he sacrifice?
Himself.
He knew he was coming back in a few days.
No, but I'm saying he had to demonstrate that for love, for showcasing the greatest act of love.
But he didn't. But it's only like a huge act of love to sacrifice something when you're actually sacrificing something.
Yeah. Did Jesus actually lose anything when he sacrificed?
Yeah, he unalived
Lost a long
on
weekend.
the cross.
But then he gained life
But then
back.
he stopped being. The
Exactly.
reason why. By the way, so the reason why we view like giving your life for something as like a huge sacrifice is because you don't get it back afterwards.
Right,
Right.
but it's a divine. It's a divine man, though. Okay. So before we get into that, do you admit that sacrifice is the greatest act of love?
Probably not. I don't know. I don't take a stance on that. But to be clear, I think if you just respawn, right? Like this is like, I don't know. Imagine you're playing Battlefront with the homies, and you like jump in front of like some like opposing person, and they kill you instead of your friend. But then you just respawn. Like that's cool, I guess.
But that's a video game, though. I'm
Yeah,
talking about
but
real
it's
life.
like I just think it's like yeah, exactly right. Like if Jesus just responds, I think it just like takes it out. I think it takes like a lot of the severity out.
I'm sorry. What do you mean?
Yeah,
Severity out
if
of
he
what?
just, I think it's like a less of a sacrifice, right? He doesn't actually lose anything. He just responds.
Right, but it's a divine man. That's his role, though.
But what did he lose anything
Prophecy.
permanently?
Although the notion is that he went to hell for 3 days and then came back into.
So he had like a bad weekend.
I mean, if that's what you call it. But I'm saying
I mean, like he's Jesus. He could have chosen to not go there, right?
right. But I'm saying
So he like willfully went to like, Tucson, Arizona, spent a weekend there, and then came back and was like, actually, I'm gonna go chill in Orlando because it's awesome in Orlando, and I don't want to be in Tucson.
Well, you're taking such a pure, like I'm gonna say pure for lack of a better word, and then applying it like you see how that doesn't apply to that though.
No.
No, I don't see that.
Bro, you're saying
Typically, when you
the greatest-
sacrifice something, you like permanently lose it.
right, but it's Jesus Christ that he's basically people who believe in the Trinity, he thinks he's God, and then he's a God in man form.
He didn't permanently lose anything.
I'm saying he had to demonstrate that sacrifice. He
But
lost
he didn't
his
sacrifice
life.
anything.
What do you mean? He sacrificed his life.
Is Jesus dead?
Well, he's not in this world right now though. Like he's not
Is,
on Earth.
that wasn't my question. Is Jesus dead?
But that's like saying, how tall are you? Give me a yes or no answer. I can't really give you an answer to that. Like, what do you
Well,
mean?
it's not like saying that, because one has an answer that's a number, and the other one has an answer that's the other. What I mean is Jesus still currently alive?
He's not.
In whatever sense you view eternal life to be alive.
But you're applying a human concept to a divine concept. You see how it doesn't.
Well,
work
but you
out.
said you were the
Like-
one who brought the term sacrifice in.
Yeah, right. But when he was on Earth, though,
what did he give up?
his life, he sacrificed.
Okay,
for the sins.
so when you say life, what do you mean? Do you mean like his flesh bag?
Yeah, exactly.
So okay, so do you think that the flesh bag is extremely valuable?
No, dude, you're missing the point. I'm saying.
Do you think that the flesh bag is extremely valuable? Like the actual fleshy body?
Dude, I don't know what you mean by that. Like
what I mean is like, what do you think is more valuable? The soul, the spirit, or like the flesh that your body is made out of?
I don't think we have to dive into this topic though. This is like
We do. It's an important question.
How so?
We're trying to
I'll get to
ascertain
it, I
if
promise.
Jesus sacrificed
okay.
anything.
Okay,
So
so
is the flesh bag important? Is it like more important than the soul, for example? or the
where
spirit?
in other stories have you heard that story of sacrifice though?
This is just
why are you
not
answering my
equipped.
question with a question?
It just
What was
seems
your
like
question
Jesus didn't really sacrifice anything.
Is the flesh bag important? Is it valuable? Is it extremely valuable?
Well, people say soul is more important than the flesh bag.
Okay, so he gave up something that wasn't particularly important.
Well, his flesh bag,
Yeah.
but there's soul and the flesh. That's
Yeah,
what
and you
I'm
just said that the
doing.
flesh is less important. So it doesn't seem like he gave up much.
Well, I'm saying some people like view it as the soul. Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like this, like there's no reason for dive into this topic. It's like you're attacking the intricate problems on a bigger picture, where you should be
Yes.
looking at the bigger picture.
That's the point.
You're saying
I
like,
mean-
oh, that little stitch of that.
Like, what did he
you know,
actually
that little
lose?
sketch? That little sketch is not important on the bigger picture.
So did Jesus, when he was on the cross, did he know that he was going to come back?
This is where I really don't know. Like,
Oh, well, there's a double bind. Either he did, in which case he didn't sacrifice anything, or he
okay,
didn't,
but that's
in
like
which
me
case he's
saying
not
like, do you know
all-knowing.
everything about science? Like, how can you explain
Well,
certain things with science?
So the reason why it's not
we
like
haven't found it
that-
out yet.
I'm not saying like you don't know, therefore you're wrong. I'm saying you don't know, well, there's either two possibilities and both of them are wrong.
What two other possibilities?
So either he knew about it, in which case the sacrifice is just way less meaningful. In fact, it's like not even a sacrifice because he knew that he was just going to get it back, so he didn't actually give it up. Or he didn't know about it, in which case he's not all-knowing, so we would just say that he doesn't exist on those grounds.
but you see how it's like, oh, you know, it's not that great, but it's the only version of sacrifice that we see.
So-
No?
In other religions, there's no sacrifice.
Maybe
There's
we
no
can talk
giving
about,
up. There's no giving up for nothing in return.
Let's think about like why self-sacrifice, like especially sacrificing one's life, is viewed
Okay,
culturally.
thank you.
Why it's
This
viewed
is-
why it's viewed as so important. So like
Okay.
typically when a person, like a just normal person, gives up their life, the reason that's viewed as so meaningful is because it means that they will know, at least the way most people understand it, is that they will no longer be able to live the life that they wanted to live. They will no longer be able to see their family again. Whether you think that there's
Yeah,
an
sure.
afterlife or not, they won't be able to see their family. They won't be able to enjoy good food. They won't be able to, experience the love of, having children, whatever. They will be deprived of so many experiences that they would have wanted to have. And on the flip side, when somebody sacrifices themselves for you, that's viewed as like devastating because now you don't get to see them again. You don't get to, spend your life with them, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why it's so meaningful for the person doing the sacrificing is because they are deprived of something. They lose out on something. And in particular, if you sacrifice like $20, you're deprived of the $20 forever. You
I
don't have it
understand.
anymore.
Yeah.
If you sacrifice your life, you lose access to all of these things. And most people think that like intuitively that like there's like it's not going to be the same. Like most people think that like there's a reason people are afraid of death, and it's because they're afraid that it'll be over.
Okay.
But if Jesus knew that it wasn't going to be over, if he knew that he would just come back in a few days and see all of his best friends again, which he did, what is he sacrificing? Where's the meaning behind the sacrifice?
But I'm saying that significance of that, regardless if he knew or not, or he came
If he
back,
did
that makes
know,
it
then there's no significance to it.
Re-
If he didn't know, then he
really,
isn't omniscient.
really. So you're saying that one story, okay, and throughout all cultures, okay, where it's arguably one of the most famous stories, at least here in the Western world, right? That's just proof. That's just fairy dust because he came back. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All that's kind of like it's not
should
really
make you-
sacrifice, bro. If you kind of came back, like
If you came back and knew you would come back, then yeah, that would be like saying, I'm going to sacrifice my I'm going to sacrifice my job to stand for what's right and go protest. But if you secretly knew that you're going to get rehired in a few days after the protest is over, then you're not sacrificing anything.
but there's a big significance to that resurrection.
I mean, that's the claim. Like,
conquering
neither of
death.
us think that the resurrection happened, but
Okay,
even
yeah,
supposing that it did, if it did happen, then the sacrifice was meaningless.
Yeah.
I just don't like. I understand your point, right? I do, but I don't like. I'm not going to sway the other way just because it's a less it's less of a sacrifice if he came back. Like, there's so much. I think, like, when people talk about God and Christianity and all this type of stuff, they really focus on the negative stuff. It's like, oh, if God was real, why did all this suffering happen?
Based?
But no one talks about the unaliver who changes life, the substance user who changes life. Like, no one talks about that. They just focus on the bad things. But like, to say that this huge significant story is just lesser because of this one thing, because it's less of a sacrifice.
Of
Like, I don't
course.
see any other
I have a
religion
question.
talk about sacrifice.
Regarding sacrifice,
And I think
had
that
a-
love replays in this real life that we see.
so I want you to make a comparison between the degree of sacrifice between Jesus and
No, but there's no like
please,
degree though. Like,
I'm in the middle of my. Of course, there's a degree of sacrifice. If I sacrifice $20, that's significantly less of a sacrifice than if I sacrifice like my life, right? So of course,
No, I'm
there's degrees
saying-
of sacrifice. So here's my question: who sacrifices more, Jesus or a 19-year-old kid in Afghanistan who jumps on a grenade to save his friends? Who sacrifices more,
well, it's Jesus,
or is it the
who-
same?
I'm saying Jesus. The reason why I did that is to showcase the world of the greatest act of love. I'm saying regardless of, because that's not the
That wasn't my
Afghanistan.
question.
Bro, I am answering your question. Just give me time. That kid who jumped on a grenade, okay, that is whatever he's sacrificing himself for his other people, like his family or whatever in that village. That's significant. I agree as well. But this is in a religious context where this one story has massively changed the lives of
I'm just
people across
asking
the world.
who sacrificed more,
Mm.
the historical Jesus that we probably all agree exists, or the 19-year-old kid who jumps on a grenade.
Well, I think Jesus.
How? What does he sacrifice that's more?
He sacrificed. Well, like I mean, what? Like, is he?
They're both sacrificing their life, right?
Mhm.
They're both sacrificing their physical life. Jesus comes back 3 days later. The kid doesn't.
Do you agree?
Yeah, but if you think about it in a philosophical sense, Jesus sacrificed more because he's affecting more people. It's like this is why I don't want to
That's not-
quantify. This
not how-
is
So
this is why I don't
to
want
be
to
clear,
quantify this thing, because it's like, let's say an Afghan boy, he sacrificed maybe 3 people around him, or like a village or something.
It doesn't matter how many people you save. The sacrifice is the same size. Like, that seems.
No,
that
I
seems
don't
weird.
think so. You think
Well,
that?
Yeah, of course.
The more people you the more people you save is not a
Wait,
factor.
could Jesus have saved without sacrificing?
See, that's the thing. Yeah, he could have, but I'm saying that's what I'm saying. He had to demonstrate that love of sacrifice.
But he didn't. He came back. So wait, if he could have just done this all, if he just could have saved everyone without
Okay,
sacrificing,
I think we're gonna disagree on
then the
this.
sacrifice is like irrelevant.
So your point is that that's irrelevant, and
He
I think
didn't
that's
save anyone
substantial.
because he could have just saved all of them otherwise, right? Like, in the same
But
way,
I'm saying that
like, I think that the
demonstration
sacrifice-
has to be
if
that
the person who
demonstration
jumps
has
on
to
the
be acted out.
grenade, say a person like jumps on a grenade and
But
then
you're not listening
they
to what I'm
sit there
saying.
for like 5 minutes waiting for the grenade to detonate. I don't know. Like, I'd probably feel like a lot different about that, right? Because they had like just a ton of other options.
Okay.
Likewise, if Jesus can just save everyone without sacrificing himself, then it's kind of strange that he did.
Ian, he had to do that.
No, he didn't. You just said that he had other
Yes, he did.
ways.
I never. What have I said that other ways?
You said that Jesus could have saved us in other ways. He didn't need to sacrifice
He could
himself
have.
to save us.
No, I'm saying he could have just said, "Hey, your sins are forgiven with a blink
Right.
of my finger, with a snap of
Yeah,
my
he could
finger."
have done that.
Yeah.
He could have done that, but I'm saying
But he
he
didn't.
had to do that. He had to sacrifice himself on the cross.
But if he
That's
could
the
have done
demonstration.
otherwise, why did he? Why did he have to?
Because he's demonstrating the act of love.
So then he couldn't have done otherwise because it wouldn't have achieved the same goal.
Yeah, sure. Okay, if you want to put it that way, yeah.
So it's not just about saving us, right? It's about saving us and then also demonstrating love. Is that the claim?
He's demonstrating love by sacrificing. That's how he That's how he died for the sins. That's the claim.
But
Like,
it
you could
doesn't
be
seem,
like-
it
you
doesn't
could be
seem like
like-
that the sacrifice has anything to do with sins. He could have gotten rid of the sins,
your
but without
argument is the same
sacrificing.
as like your argument is the same as saying like, why isn't God forgiving or destroying all evil right now?
No?
I mean, it's I guess
Kind
it's
of is
related,
because
but
you're
it's
just
not
saying
really.
like, why
We-
didn't Jesus do this when he could have? If he's so powerful, why didn't he just snap his finger?
I don't think any of
forgive
us would make
everyone?
the argument that there should be no evil in the world.
Okay, sure, but I'm saying that he had to do that. He had to sacrifice himself because that's demonstrating his act of love. That had to happen. There's no
Wouldn't
doubt about
forgiving people also be demonstrating love?
it. No,
without
because
sacrifice?
because sacrifice is the highest form of love.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Really, didn't you agree by saying that by his sacrifice isn't worth after?
No,
resurrection.
well, so it could be both. It could be both like ineffective and like accomplishing like not a real sacrifice, but also that sacrifice
let's
isn't
say-
the highest form of love, right? Like I don't
I
think,
think it's the highest form of love. I think you don't think
if you
a
have other
mother would-
ways, then no. Like okay, let's say you can do one of two things. Let's say that you love your family and you can take care of them in one of two ways. You can either sell off all of your organs, killing you. You make the sacrifice for them, or you can work like an extra 5 hours this week to make enough money
I
to
would-
support your family.
if my daughter was missing a kidney and there was no other
No,
options
like you
available,
sell it
there's
for
no
money.
time.
Like you just sell all of it for money,
There's two
effectively
options.
killing
either
you.
sell it,
do you
sell
mean?
your kidneys or just work 5 extra hours. This
No,
week.
no.
Yeah.
I'm saying I have to give my kidneys to my daughter.
That's
It's
not
not.
hypothetical.
It's not the hypothetical.
Oh my god, bro! That hypothetical that you just said that you guys just claimed doesn't apply to God because, dude, you guys are just running around. I feel like you guys are
Because I actually think it's actually quite unloving to sell all of your organs
Yeah,
and
I'll
then
say
leave your
this, though,
family
right?
alone. Like I think that that's actually quite unloving.
So
Yeah, so
you don't
let's
agree
actually
with
think
my-
about this.
Wait, can I
Let's
say
think
this
about-
first? Can I say this one thing?
Go ahead.
Do you guys don't think that sacrifice is the highest form of love?
Yeah, I just gave you an
Not
example that would
always.
involve a sacrifice, but would not be the highest
No,
form
no,
of
no,
love.
not always. It's not, okay. Let's say there was a situation where you just answer that question though. Like, don't say it depends.
What
or like, There's
question?
other ways. that
Oh, then
sacrifice-
no, I don't think it's necessarily the
Then
highest
no.
form of love.
Because there are
So why
cases
is
where there
it-
will be higher.
Why? Like what? Can you give
Like
me
the one I
one
just
that Ian
gave.
just gave.
Yeah.
like giving making money and stuff?
Yeah, just like working, like staying, you commit to
if
stay
you
with
had a
your
child,
family
right?
as opposed to sacrificing yourself. Like
But
you
see,
solve
this
it in
is
both
where-
ways just by
this is
like
where
putting in more
actually,
effort.
here's a good example. Perhaps more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
I would actually like this is something that actually happened to a friend of mine. His dad or his family was struggling financially. His dad had a life insurance policy, so he unalived himself to give to so his kid could benefit from the life insurance policy. And I view that as like wildly cowardly.
Yeah, I agree.
Like that
Yeah, I
that
don't-
fucked
I
up his
don't agree
kid.
with that.
It fucked up his mom, and it wasn't worth it. He could have just buckled down and actually like put in the effort to he was sick, like he was ill, but he like
Dad?
not like not
Which
like
kid?
terminally ill. My friend's dad.
Dad, okay.
Not like terminally ill, but like he could have like taken the steps to actually like get himself better and then provide for his family that way. He didn't. And so that would be an example of sacrifice being really cowardly.
Yeah.
No, but that wouldn't. That's I would not condone that because that's self-harm, right?
Yeah, you would just condone it if he paid if he predicted that someone else would do it and then put himself in a situation where it would happen.
But
Yeah, like
you asked-
if he did that by like charging a cop, like he just like ran up to like a cop with like a knife or something, and then the cop like shoots him. Like in this scenario, I would think it's equally as cowardly.
Yeah, well, okay, well that I I feel bad for the kid and everything. I don't condone.
Now, Andre,
self-harm.
let me ask you this: if Jesus had continued to live, could he have continued to perform miracles?
Andre? I'm not Andre.
Oh, I'm sorry, Revi. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong name.
Sorry.
Revi. If
Say
Jesus
again?
had continued to live, could he have
Yeah.
continued to perform miracles?
Do you see, like, I can't answer that question because I wouldn't know.
Why not? I mean, it's
Did he
pretty
have the
straightforward
power?
hypothetical. Yeah, I mean, like he performed miracles during his life, presumably. Presumably.
Well, I don't want to answer on behalf of something I don't know, right?
Does he have the power? Well, so there's another double bind. Either he has the power to, in which case he could do that, or he doesn't have the power to, in which case he
But like I
doesn't
said,
exist
like,
because he's not all powerful.
all of our debates that is happening right now is adhering to like a divine concept. So all the laws of the universe or laws of
Oh, this is a cop out.
realm. No, how's that a cop out? It's I I feel like you should
I mean,
spare
just like
me this
engage with the
one.
hypothetical. Suppose for a moment that
But it's
Jesus
a
had lived one extra
hypothetical.
year. Yes, engage with it. It's a hypothetical. engage with
like,
it.
you see how the onus is on me to like play
Engage
on
with the
this
hypothetical, yeah.
hypothetical.
Well, yeah,
That
you,
is
you
not
asked
the
us if
realm.
sacrifice is the greatest form of love.
That's
and
not
I'm
a
telling you,
hypothetical.
no, our answer is no.
Okay, but you didn't even get a chance for me to debate that topic, though. You guys said no, and you guys don't give me a chance to.
Sure, if you want to make the argument that it is somehow, I don't know how you would do that. But
I'm
it
gonna
seems
do it
like
right now,
there,
if you
it
just
seems
let me
like there are cases where sacrifice is just very straightforwardly not the highest
Okay,
form
I'll
of
do it
love.
right now.
Sure, go
I'll do
for
it
it.
right now.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I think the love that a parent has for the child, or whether if I don't know if you guys have children or something, right? That is kind of reflected on what Jesus had, where he had to sacrifice his love. So what I mean by that is, let's say, God forbid that there was a situation where a mother would have to step in front of a bullet for her child, or something like that, or like they're in some sort of contraption, like a saw contraption, and they had to, hypothetical, right? They had to sacrifice herself for the child. I think a lot of parents.
Oh, I'm sorry.
would
Did
do
that
so.
actually happen?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then why? But that didn't happen. How can I engage with something that we don't know?
So
No, but it did happen though. Not the saw trap, but there's so many examples of mothers sacrificing their kids.
And
Sorry,
there are
sorry,
examples of
excuse me.
Jesus that aren't there
Sacrificing
examples in your view?
themselves for their kids.
So, but
Not
I would
Mola.
say that sacrifice could be the highest form of love in situations where it's the only option. But if you have the power to do a million other things to achieve the exact same result, like if the mother was holding like a 19 at the head of the gunman, perfectly in sight, before the gunman
But,
had even
okay.
drawn, like
that's-
I don't know,
that's
like I think
irrelevant,
I think it would have been way more loving to just defend your daughter like that. That would be a much higher form
But-
of love than
but that would
just
be irrelevant,
throwing
though, 'cause-
yourself in front of the bullet.
I don't think that's relevant because
Hey, Ian. There's another guy. Maybe it's the same guy.
Oh, okay.
I think that was a butthole this time.
Yeah, it is the same guy.
okay, well, I don't have that much time left. So you
Welcome
guys
back,
can-
Harold.
You guys can go into the next guy in a few minutes, but I think okay. So the love that you have for your parents, do you think that's just brain chemicals? Like,
I mean, I
you know,
lean that way. Yeah.
you think it's brain chemicals?
Yeah.
So can you say I love my mom because of brain chemicals?
I
Yeah,
love my mom because of brain
I love
chemicals.
my mom because
my
of brain
God.
chemicals.
See,
yeah.
I don't like that's so crazy to say to me. I think there's so like
Why?
Listen, bro, I
It's just true.
Say okay, you have a child? Do you guys have any child?
I love my wife because of brain chemicals. I could. Well, I'm not going to go get her because she hates.
No, it's
she
fine.
hates
You
being
don't
brought
have to-
onto stream. But
That's fine.
But like I've said this on stream in the past, and then she said it back, and it was all very cute.
Dude, don't you have you don't have no resilience saying that, like mental resilience? You're just
No,
kind of like
it's
I
true.
just don't think. I just don't think because of brain chemicals makes it less valuable.
Yeah.
I think it makes it very, very less valuable because I think there's a spiritual connection between your wife, your child, your family. You don't believe that?
I don't think that there are spiritual anythings. So
You don't think there's something more greater than science that bonds you guys together?
Well,
if
science
you
is like a
consider sociology
methodology.
science.
No, like not something that's quantifiable, something that's external, that's something that's unseen. That's like not, like I know
No,
you
No,
don't
I
think that?
don't.
Yikes. Okay.
like why would I?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just feel like every time like I hear someone say that, they just seem to have like sort of a like they kind of cringe inside. Like it's
No?
kind of
I think if
I'm,
anything,
like,
the real
surprised that
cringe
I'm
thing is like
surprised you
asking the
see that.
question in the first place.
Yeah, because like I don't believe that, right? I think there's something greater than just something that science can explain. I don't think it's brain chemicals. The love for if I had a child, I don't think it's just brain chemicals. I would definitely never say that to my
This
child.
is like incredulity, right? This is just like there's no way it could be this. That's ridiculous. Like it's not.
Well, I mean,
Like it's vibes based.
I guess so. Yeah, honestly, yeah. Because I mean, that's what God is essentially to you guys. It's just kind of a crazy thing that's up in the sky that you don't really believe. So I don't know. I mean, all you guys think it's there's always an equation or there's always a meaning to all this. So obviously you would think that that's kind of crazy, right?
Well, I mean, like perhaps it's rational, but
I'm
the
saying
point
there's
is
something beyond that, right? That's something
I know, but your argument for why that's the case is that just it seems like it can't be otherwise. And
No,
that's
I'm
just
saying that there's
unconvincing to me.
not that there's otherwise, but I think there's more. There's something that things that science can't explain,
Well, I know that
like
that's
the brain
your-
chemicals thing. Like
I know that
I
that's your
hate the
belief.
notion of saying that it's brain chemicals. Like
Why?
I
know,
would
but
never tell my mom
that's an
that or
that's
child,
an argument
even
from
if I believe
incredulity.
it.
Well,
is my point.
I've never told my mom that either, but
But
like
you'd
it's
be
still
okay with saying that.
true.
But you'd be okay saying that.
Would I be okay? It'd be like a weird thing to say, but it wouldn't be like an untrue thing to say.
But it's true though.
Yeah.
Why would
There are true things to say that are weird to say.
Why is it weird though?
Wait, would you tell your mom that you got
No, no,
pushed
why
out
is
of
it
her?
weird?
Wait. Would you tell your mom that you got pushed out of her vagina? Would you say that to your mom?
Probably not.
But it's true. Why is it weird? It's true.
Well, what? No. I'm saying, but why do you have that? Why do you say? Why do you think it's weird though?
Because that's just not really the level that I conceptualize things at. I conceptualize love just more as like at like the feelings based level. But if you want to get into it, technically, it does come from the neurochemicals.
Okay. So every
Also,
time
I just
there's
want to
happy
pause for a minute,
birthday-
Jason. I love your collection of whatever you're showing us.
I'm glad it's. Could you imagine
I
if he?
last thing, right? Last thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want other people to join as well, right? And I have to go. Do you don't think about I remember you saying to the other guests like do you think it was designed or it was a mind or something? A mind created this?
Yeah.
So like you don't believe in intellectual design?
In some things, not in the universe.
No, I'm in this world. Do you think there's intellectual design in this world?
Like
No.
that went into the earth. Like I think like if you're asking me like, do I think
Like
like
everything. I'm talking about everything.
oh no.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
No.
Okay. So like this is just a concept I like to say, right? Like you imagine a tree, right?
Oh no.
And then
Not the trees.
What fractalization? Do you guys know about this? The
Go ahead.
sacred geometry.
Go ahead.
Oh
Do you guys know about sacred geometry?
yeah,
I
unfortunately.
am, and it'll make me cry.
Unfortunately, what do you mean, dude? It's cool.
It's
It's
just meaningless.
I don't know, man. I think it's. I mean, what would be a scientific way? Because I've never heard anyone describe it in a scientific sense to give an answer
For
What question?
to sacred geometry.
That's not. a
Sorry.
question.
It's not okay. Do you know what I'm talking about? So I'm talking about like you imagine a tree, and then your blood vessels, and then like the canyons, and then the mountain ridges, and everything like that. They all have this branching out effect, right? This fractalization, this like
Yeah,
fractal
self-similarity
patterns.
is exhibited in a lot of dynamical systems.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's math. It's not. There's nothing sacred about it.
So what's the
Partial differential
mathematical
equations.
answer to that then?
I
Fractals-
just gave it to you.
Yeah, fractals are things that emerge in dynamical systems. Like behind every cool fractal that you've ever seen on like YouTube or like you know Instagram or wherever you've seen a fractal, all of these come from like pretty simple dynamical systems equations.
Right, but like all of this is just like what do you guys believe in the Big Bang Theory? Like just by chance? Like how was this world created to you guys?
Via like the laws of physics.
But how was it? Okay, but how was it created via laws of physics?
Gravity, among other things, like lots of different
What
laws
was
of
the
physics
beginning
factored
point?
into the Earth forming in the way that it
What was
did.
the spawning point? The beginning.
I don't know if there was a beginning.
So it's always just is.
Maybe.
Okay. Well, I mean that's you know, I don't know. I feel like it's a bad argument.
Well, it's just a
I
position,
didn't provide an
right?
argument. I just answered your question.
Yeah.
Well, you just say it's always is. You
Could be.
expect me to play in hypotheticals, but you guys won't play into that hypothetical.
What's the
Oh,
hypothetical?
what's the hypothetical?
Well, how if the world was created, how was it created?
We don't think the world was created. But if it was created, it could have been created by a mind.
Created by something.
Yeah.
It could have been created by a mind, or it could have been created by something that's not a mind.
Yeah. We
Like
just don't think
as
that it
what?
was created, though.
No, but such as what? Like, okay, this whole existence, right?
A
You know,
mind, not a mind.
So Revi, typically
a
when people
demiurge.
talk about
Like you could, just, you
typically
know.
when people talk about a thing being created, there's an implication that there's a creator.
Okay,
And
minus
that's
that.
just the language we use.
Okay.
So
well,
when you
I
say
don't-
created, that implies a creator. So if you say if the universe was
I don't
created,
mean by that. Okay, I don't mean that.
okay,
then.
what do you mean by it then?
So I mean like how was this all started, basically? And does
Yeah,
that
if the universe had a beginning, it could have a lot of reasons why. There
what
could be a lot of
what would
reasons or
be
causes
your
for its
best
beginning.
answer?
A Hardle-Hawking state that had a non-temporal existence prior to the Big Bang.
To the Big Bang.
Yeah.
So it's basically just by chance this whole thing happened.
No.
I know.
Well, it
Didn't
had
say
to have
that.
a. You said Big Bang though.
Big Bang doesn't have anything to do with chance.
What? Really? That's
Really.
isn't that the whole point of Big Bang? Is that it just
No,
it
not
happened?
at all. It has nothing to do with chance.
So there. Okay. Okay.
You got anything else?
No.
Well, appreciate you coming on up.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
We have
guys.
some super chats. We have a lot of super chats. You guys did good. I guess shaming people into giving you money works.
Yeah.
Who would have thunk?
Good boy.
So from Aaron Leitz, we have intuition can be and often is mistaken with the $10. That's true. From Econo NYC, you know it didn't have much mass? That dude's with the $2 from Econo NYC. Thank you. Yes, that dude's you know it didn't have much mass. Ed Wolf with the $5 says give this to Weenie Guy. No, he doesn't he's not getting paid for this. Go to OnlyFans if you want that. Or OF. is
Bro,
what
I'm like,
supposed to say.
I'm like hunting this dude down like the fucking Terminator every time he joins.
From Constantine H with the $2, can God
Constantine.
even enjoy iced coffee?
Constantine.
Constantine H. Can God even enjoy iced coffee? Happy Pride. Happy Pride. And also, I don't know, Ian, can God enjoy iced coffee?
Well, if he had enjoyed iced coffee, then that means that he would have always been enjoying iced coffee.
There you go.
But that
It
seems
sounds
weird
like
to
a power I
say
have
because
that
he would have
God
been
doesn't have.
enjoying iced coffee prior to iced coffee even existing. So I don't think he can.
Yeah, sounds about right. From Judas with the $5, is the flesh bag important? Should be the first question every time. I mean, it's a good question. People don't know what a flesh bag is usually, but Space Lord of 75 with the $2 says, Jesus sacrificed himself to save us from who? I think we all know the answer to that, right? And then with Res Instance with the 20 Australian dollars, the Aussie dollies, Matthew 16:28 states, "Truly I tell you, some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." Jesus didn't even stick to his own deadline. True, that's a fair point. And it's brought up frequently, but people will often talk about things like, oh yeah, well, you know, he did. They're not going to taste death from, you know, the second world. I don't know. People have all sorts of explanations for that. Anyway, I think Andre's up next, right?
Haven't we already talked to Andre?
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay, we should talk to Boyan then.
Okay. Yeah. We'll talk to you next week, Andre, because we've already talked to you. Boyan, how's it going? Boyan, you coward fuck.
Hey,
Yeah,
maybe
what's
Boyan's
up?
ju-
Hey,
there
how's
he
it
is.
going? Yeah.
What's up?
How old are you?
I'm 18.
Yeah. What's going to be your religion or your beliefs?
I'm Orthodox Christian.
Sure. Why?
Yeah.
What argument or evidence do you have for this?
Well, for God existing or just Orthodoxy in general?
Either.
Well, for God, it's are you familiar with the transcendental argument.
Yeah, I
for
love the
God's
transcendental argument.
Yeah, it would be that probably.
Yeah, go for it. What's the argument?
So it's a reductile argument where basically only under the theist worldview can you give a epistemic justification for things like morals, truth, and so on.
Does God have epistemic justification?
Well, not necessarily.
Then God doesn't know anything.
Interesting.
Yeah, is God a Christian? Like, is God Orthodox?
Well, God, no, he's not a. Well,
So then
Christian
he
is-
doesn't have an epistemic justification for morals or truth, right?
Yeah.
well, I would say he's an exception.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, why?
Well, because he's all-knowing, all-powerful. But
If he doesn't have epistemic justification, then he's not all-knowing.
well, why not?
So epistemology is the study of knowledge. When
Yeah.
you're justified, when you're epistemically justified, that means that you have a reason to think that you have knowledge in a case, right? We say that people have knowledge in a classical sense. It doesn't hold up in certain cases, but for simplicity, people have knowledge if they have a justified true belief. So if God doesn't have any justifications for his beliefs, then by definition, he just doesn't have any knowledge.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. Well. Okay. Thank you. I'll look into that.
Okay.
Sure.
Have a good
Anything
day.
else?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Take care, Boyan.
Yeah, appreciate you. I've
Judas
been
with $2.
I've been doing that recently. I've been taking people's gods
It's
hostage.
nice.
Every time someone tries to run tag on me, I just
it's
take their
good.
god as a hostage.
It's so good. I gotta start using that. Just asking if their god is Orthodox or whatever.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah, literally unironically, you just ask like what's God's epistemic justification? And they don't have one. God, like they have no idea. Every single like bad faith, and I don't want to say that guy was bad faith. That guy seemed like good enough faith. But typically with like bad faith tag runners, they'll ask you like well, how do you know that? And how do you know that? And what if you're wrong about that? And how do you know about that? But you can just run all of these questions on God and they'll have no answer.
It turns out epistemic justification, like foundational epistemic justification, is hard.
Yeah, it is.
So Judas with the $2, Tagger defeated before he got out the gate.
Yeah, you got spawn killed, low key.
Bro's getting camped. We have Agnostodeist up next. I
Haven't we already
believe.
talked to this guy?
Did we? No, we talked to Autistic Deist.
Agnostodeist. Did we talk to you already?
This is like when I turn on the 24-hour or 24/7 like a live stream of birds for my cat. Just like birds tweeting, some rustling in the bushes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi.
Oh, hello.
Have we talked to you already?
No, I've never done one of these before.
Okay, cool.
Welcome.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you can hear me.
What do you believe?
So I believe that if God exists, then he would want us to doubt his existence anyway, because doubt exists in the world. You can mention the heuristic that the purpose of a system is what it does. Therefore, God must want us to doubt him.
So
we should think that God is possible.
then that seems like a
because-
self-defeating view.
Not really, no. Why?
Because if God wants you to doubt him, but you don't doubt him, then that means that God didn't bring about the state of affairs that's most in line with his desires.
Well, I do doubt him. See, that's the thing, is that you can believe that God is possible, and if he does exist, then he would want us to doubt him regardless. So we should just doubt him.
What about all the
That's not-
people that believe in him? That seems to be like a problem for the view that God wants us to doubt him. I feel like if God wanted us to doubt him, he could have given us like scientific evidence that indicates that the universe always existed and make it like very widespread.
If God made evidence that the universe always existed, and it was obvious that that question could be answered, then that could be thought of as evidence for divine creation. That could be evidence for what's that word? Like that could be evidence for creation, intelligent design, essentially. If we knew for certain that the world was always existing, and we could prove the Hartle-Hawking state or the Big Bang, then that would be intelligent design, essentially.
No, but what if we could prove that the universe just always existed, like prior to the Big Bang, or like let's say it goes through infinite cycles of big bounces and big crunches, that the universe is just eternal. If we could just like, why wouldn't God make physics such that we could prove this?
Because, well, how would God do that then?
If he's all powerful, he can just, he can plant scientists that say that it's, he could have like every philosopher prior to anybody like coming up with the conception of a God that created the universe. He could interfere to make sure that they don't spread their message.
How would God interfere? By revealing himself? Because then
by popping people into non-existence. He just teleports like Jesus into the sun,
But then that would be proof of God's existence then.
No, not if Jesus just disappears when nobody's looking.
Yeah, then well, then where would Jesus have gone?
Into the sun.
Wait, hold on. I'm a little confused. You're saying that...
So every time somebody tries to come up with the concept of a God, God hunts them down, finds a moment when there's nobody looking, and then teleports them into the sun.
That would be... So then where would, like, people would look at Ring cameras and people would say, oh, he was just in his room and now he's gone and his windows aren't open and he just disappeared. That would be evidence of God.
No. When nobody's looking is the key part there.
Bro's arguing, but by the way, just to be clear, it sounds like you're arguing that there's no evidence of God.
That is true.
So like just on like a rational basis, it seems like I should just reject the existence of God.
So because people believe in God because of religiosity. Religiosity is genetic. So people have to believe in God. If you look at Richard Dawkins' Institute, you see his right-hand man, Josh Timonen, converted to Christianity. His right-hand woman, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, converted to Christianity because religiosity is genetic. So if you tell people that God simply doesn't exist, they're not going to be able to understand what you're saying because religiosity is in our genes.
Why would God make it that way?
What was that?
Why would God make it that way?
He didn't. Religiosity just evolved because there are benefits to being religious. Religious practice. There are many studies that claim religiosity is beneficial in a society, to your health. So that's why religiosity came about, not because of God. God never revealed himself. We have to believe in the possibility of a God.
Oh, wait, what? What just happened?
It just is what it is.
Holy shit.
What just happened?
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate.
Oh, okay,
to be honest,
no, we're good.
Because God wants us to not. God wants.
So
us to
agnostodeist.
Yeah.
I get that you're agnostic. We're interested in talking about people who have like a convicted belief in a God, which is not you.
People who are. Sorry, what was that last part?
People who have a convicted belief in a God, meaning that they do believe in a God.
People never have a convicted belief in a God. People are always just taking.
They do. Lots of them do.
I've talked to plenty of them. So agnostodeist, we're gonna let you go and move on to another guest. But thanks for being here.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
You guys just need to take a better angle.
Okay.
I think Josh is up next.
Josh, how's it going?
Hey guys, how are you?
Doing well. How old are you?
How old am I?
Oh, you look plenty old. No offense.
That's so mean.
Yeah.
I don't understand what that means.
There's an 18 plus.
Yeah, you gotta be 18 plus. You look older than 18.
Yeah, I haven't been carded in a little while. I'm much older than 18. 35 actually.
Yeah. What's gonna be what religion are you? What are your beliefs?
Christian.
Gotcha.
Okay. I'm convinced, unlike the previous caller who told me I couldn't be.
Yeah.
Convicted.
I was actually thinking about that for a second. I was like, maybe I should bring up the next guest so that the next guest can just say, by the way, I I have a convicted belief in God. But yeah, sure. Do you have like evidence or arguments or like anything that would like make you believe that God exists or that
Or
Christianity
make
is
us
true?
believe it,
Yeah.
rather. That's the important thing.
Okay, so my question would be, I'm going to flip it on you real quick. I'll answer it, I promise. But what evidence would you guys take?
Sure. So there's like two broad categories of evidence. There's like three. So there's the two big buckets are going to be like deductive proofs and like evidential arguments. So if you gave like a deductive proof, like, well, everything that begins to exist has a cause and the universe began to exist, and then you gave like a defense of both of those premises, it deductively yields the conclusion that like the universe has a cause. Then there's like stage two arguments about how, well, this cause must be a mind. It couldn't not be a mind. That would be like a deductive, definitive, couldn't possibly be otherwise. The alternative is that you point to like certain data points that you think don't make sense under the hypothesis of atheism or naturalism, but do make sense under the hypothesis that God exists. That's the alternative. So
that would be enough for you?
Yeah, if you have like a strong evidential case that outweighs the evidence against God. And I don't know, like I have lots of evidential reasons to think that God isn't real. But if you provided like sufficient evidence that outweighs just all of that, then that would also be sufficient. You could also appeal to, typically when you're demonstrating something.
What would be enough to outweigh all of that, though? Like I'd have to prove every single one of your theories wrong, I guess?
So Josh, we won't, I mean, I take roughly the same position as Ian. I don't know what would outweigh those. Your job is to find those things.
Yeah.
If I knew it, then I would already be a Christian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but on some level, like you may just be you're not going to believe in God no matter what, which is fine.
I don't think so.
Like you may have already just decided not to believe in God.
I think if somebody showed me like irrefutable evidence that Jesus rose from the grave, I'd probably believe in God.
But you would have to see it yourself? What would be irrefutable evidence for you?
I don't know. It's hard. Like by the very nature of that, it's hard to conceive of something that isn't like wackily unrealistic. Right. I don't know if there's like GoPro footage that would definitely do it, but I don't think there's going to be any of that. But unfortunately, like we don't even have. Well, yeah, that's true. It would need to hold up to scrutiny. But
so let me give an example. If Jesus appeared in my living room to me and my wife, like in front of us, and said, "Hey, I'm back. This is weird. I didn't mean to come back here, but I'm back." And then he's like, "I'm thirsty. You guys want a drink?" And goes over to the sink, turns on the sink, snaps his finger, and wine comes out. I'd be a Christian.
Yeah.
Like there's clearly something.
Is the wine necessary, or what if it was still water when he turned it on?
If Jesus appears in his room, I'm sure.
Yeah, it'd be pretty compelling. Like obviously it'd have some questions, but it'd be pretty compelling.
Can I pause there? Because this gets to an argument which I find very compelling, which is the personal aspect of it, because that's why I personally believe in God. I think there are many good reasons to believe in God philosophically, logically, that sort of thing, but it's the personal experience that I have had in which leads me to believe in God. And you said the same thing. So basically for you, no matter what we're arguing here, it would have to be Jesus would have to appear to you.
No, well, that's like an upper limit. That's like a really easy example of what could demonstrate that to us. But right, like if you somehow had like, I don't know, if you gave like the 15 bulletproof lines of succession that demonstrates that the Gospels are like definitely 100% real, maybe that would be like really good evidence. At least like that would give me pause in my atheism. Like I'd think, well, I can't explain that.
Okay, that's fair, I guess. I just think
also,
just
one other thing.
Sure.
There are a lot of people who come into my lives, come into Ian's lives, come on here, and they say things like, I was like super atheist. I was super skeptical. I didn't believe any of this, and then I read XYZ argument and it convinced me. Like this. Like you have to acknowledge that. Like I don't think Ian or I are particularly novel in this respect. Like people get convinced to become atheists. People get convinced to become theist all the time. And these are people who, generally, at least I would like to think, are thoughtful.
Yeah, although I think it's more of like a doorway kind of situation where these arguments are a doorway into the personal experience of God, in which they then have a relationship with God.
Oh, well, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The relationship can't be, I can't prove that, just like I can't prove a relationship like the love I have for my family or for my mother or whatever.
Sure. So
That's
I think,
experiential. So anyways, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, one thing that I would note, because, you know, I'd want a relationship with Jesus if I knew that he existed. The problem is I can't have a relationship with someone if I don't know that they exist. I can't have a girlfriend if I don't know that she's real. I can't have like a child if I don't know, or I can't have a relationship with a child, like, you know, a child of my own, like my genetic material, of course. I can't have like I can't have one of those unless I actually know that that child exists.
Ian, you want a
That's a fair
relationship with a
point.
child?
Stop, Blitz, why?
I'm 35.
Clipped.
Okay, so you're right about that. However, when you have the relationship with the person who are you're certain exists, you then can't necessarily be certain that say that you get married, that person, you can't 100% prove that that person loves you. You're going to have to, on some point, take a leap of faith and love that person back and just assume that that is reciprocal, right? The existence part, I understand. I get that point. But past that, the relationship itself is going to have to be an element of faith on some level, even between people.
Sure. Well, that's totally fine as long as I know that Jesus exists. Then, if I know that God is real, and that God is Jesus, and Jesus told me in his book, here's how to have a relationship with me, then that's fine. I'm happy to have like a bit of faith in that. But the precondition is just that I need to know that he exists.
Well, let's start with this. Do you guys believe that he existed as a historical figure?
Yeah, and I think he was crucified.
Yeah,
I don't think that he
probably.
like rose from the dead, though.
Okay, that's good. At least I've gotten arguments with people before that don't even think he existed, which I just don't even. It's hard to have a starting point with that. Okay, so you don't think he rose from the dead.
Nope.
And the evidence in which to convince you that he rose from the dead would probably involve some kind of GoPro.
Not
Well, maybe there's
necessarily.
other ways.
Okay,
Yeah.
what else?
Just-
What other ways
So-
would there be?
That's your job. Surely a
Blitz,
GoPro
you're
would
quiet.
be convincing. So that's your job. Surely a GoPro would be convincing. But like, you know, maybe there's something else that we haven't thought of that would be convincing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say even then I don't think
What's-
there
so-
would be plenty of people that don't believe at that point.
Yeah.
Even if there was a GoPro.
Maybe we could, and I don't know. I don't want to like shoehorn you into it. But do you have like any evidence at all that would make us think that the resurrection actually happened?
Yeah, well, I'm sure you've come across all of them before, but I'll state the normal ones, I guess. The one that the disciples, the change in their behavior from being terrified, frightened cowards, I guess cowards might be a strong word, but to being absolutely convinced that something had changed, that he had risen from the dead, I think would be, and then going on and living the rest of their lives under extreme persecution and being killed in horrific fashion, all the while never denying that he rose from the dead with no material reward whatsoever for it, I think would be pretty decent argument that they at least believed in it. And then the witness of their testimony put together with many other people across time would have a pretty large effect. It does on me, at least, a pretty large effect on the efficacy of what they were saying initially.
So the problem with this, I guess in my mind, is that, and maybe you have a source that would say otherwise, a source that I've never encountered before, but my understanding is that the source of these claims is the Bible itself. But the problem is that we actually have no idea who wrote any of the Gospels. They were all written anonymously.
Okay, well, so it is a large source, those testimonies, the four Gospels, and then also the ones after Paul and other figures throughout the New Testament. You also do get other witnesses from early times. So like Josephus, for instance, does mention this sect of Christianity or this sect of people who worship a crucified
We
man.
agree that there were early Christians
Yeah.
who were Christians, you know, after Jesus died or whatever. Like that.
And so I guess my point was I guess I've looked like I'm curious as to why they believe that and what, like, whether that was true or not. And to me, it's true.
Well,
But to you
so
guys, it's not true.
It's at least plausible. I mean, like, it even says in various books in the Bible that the people who should have recognized him didn't recognize him at first, right? It was it Mary, one of the Marys, who thought he was a gardener.
And
right?
you know when she recognized him when he spoke her name, Yeah, when,
Well,
when you
yeah.
said
So,
Mary.
but like it's kind of weird that like somebody that you should have known for like presumably years, you wouldn't recognize them from how they look. Like that seems kind of strange.
I don't. Well,
Um,
it may on the surface. Can I add an explanation for that?
Sure.
So it would equate to other people in the Bible who have come close to God. Say Moses on the mountaintop, when he comes back down, he's glowing. Jesus himself is now resurrected from the dead. He is transformed, so he's still him, but he's so I guess you could. I keep saying glowing. I'm not coming up with good words, but he's so transformed that it's going to need to be some kind of statement, some kind of word from his mouth that you would then know. Like if I knew you very well and your appearance changed, but then you spoke to me, the voice would be, I would recognize the voice. I wouldn't.
So
like, that would
so
be easy.
perhaps, but all I'm suggesting is that there are several instances of this happening in the Bible, right? Where like
Yeah, the two men walking on the road to Emmaus.
yeah. On the road to Emmaus, and then there's the fishermen, or
Peter,
while they're out fishing. Yeah. So
Yeah, that was
the
from
point
far
is-
away though, but yeah.
Yeah. But the point is that like we have a lot of instances of people not recognizing him, and so it actually just seems more plausible that there was an imposter, a guy who took advantage of these people who kind of looked like Jesus, knew the story, and wasn't crucified, and that's why they didn't recognize him at first, because it wasn't him.
So that's an alternative explanation. Although again, once he speaks Mary's name, she recognizes him right away. So it's not like there was a long process for Mary to go through before she was convinced that this was him. It was merely a one-word statement that convinced her. And then the other disciples, none of this takes a very long time. At most, it's a couple hours. Like it's not like you would have, like if someone raised from the dead and you had just seen them killed and you weren't entirely sure it was them, it probably would take a little bit longer to be convinced than just simply saying one word.
Not if you're grief stricken. Grief does a number on the brain.
Yeah, especially if you like feel super guilty about it.
You guys are right. Like that's a possible explanation.
In fact,
but
it seems,
again,
it seems even more plausible than a miracle happening, because we know that people steal identities. We know that that's a thing that happens in real life.
What? That
Stolen
they
identities,
misremember things?
imposters. No, like imposters exist in real life. Stolen
Yeah, but then
identities
after
exist
a
in real
while-
life. So it's
so
not just possible; it's plausible.
Well, you're right. This occurs a lot of times in history. Like for instance, with Nero, it would happen for hundreds of years after that. There would be someone claiming to be Nero, and then would lead a cult and would gather it together. And you know what would always happen is that it would destroy itself in a bunch of violence and fire and destruction. But that didn't happen.
Well, yeah,
with
but
Christianity.
so the trick with the Jesus imposter, if you buy the hypothesis, is that he didn't then go on to lead a cult to try to take over Rome, for example. He disappeared. And so the legend continued without having a cult built around the central figure.
Well, but he didn't. But he disappeared. But he kept continuing to appear to people like Paul.
Well,
and
what happened
others.
to Paul
The
was a
Book of
spiritual
Revelation.
experience, right?
There's plenty
So
of different.
Paul was
I
a
actually have a
spiritual
question.
experience.
I have a question about the Paul stuff because I have like a relevant. I have a relevant contradiction. Did the people who were with Paul, did they hear Jesus speak or did they not hear it?
They saw a bright light, but they didn't hear him speak. I don't think.
Okay, that contradicts.
I'd have to look it up.
That contradicts. That contradicts 9:7. The men who were traveling with him stood speechless because they heard the voice but saw no one.
Okay, my bad. I got that wrong.
Well, you actually got it right because in Acts 22:7-9 or 9 it says, "Now those who were with me saw the light but did not hear the voice of the one who was speaking to me." So they both heard the voice but didn't hear the voice.
Okay, yeah. So you trapped me. Good job.
No, it's okay.
So
I don't mean to do that, but yeah.
you did mean to do that. It's fine, but you did mean to do that. Okay, so I agree. So that could be a contradiction. Could it also be possible that there's just two different people? They each have a different recollection of it. You would say that makes the whole thing false. Fine, fair enough. It
But
could also
Acts
just
is
mean that
written
the
by
details
Paul.
are wrong.
There's only one author.
Huh?
There's only one author, if I'm not mistaken.
No. Of Acts?
Of Acts?
Acts is Luke.
I thought Acts was
You
Paul.
said it's anonymous. We can't know anyways, right?
No. But I thought Acts was Paul, and maybe I'm mistaken about this. I'm not like the biggest Bible scholar, but
I wouldn't trap you. I wouldn't trap you like that. Come on.
um,
We could never know, though, right?
Acts
It's
was
Luke.
Luke.
Okay.
But the accounts in Acts, yeah, okay.
Oh, sure. I don't know why I thought. Is it just because Acts includes? Is it just because Acts includes
Paul.
like the Paul story?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
sure. That's why I thought it was. Yeah,
And
sure.
Luke
Okay.
knew Paul personally.
I don't really have a reason. I mean, according to what? According to what?
What, that they knew each other?
Yeah, that's possible.
This
but
is well, it's mentioned later in the I'm sorry, I'd have to look at the exact verses, but I think Paul mentions it later. I'd have to look it up. So I
It's
could be
okay.
wrong.
It's not
Yeah,
super
it's-
relevant.
I guess there's still the problem that I don't know. I'm like less inclined to believe that Paul saw Jesus because the stories that are given are like contradictory.
But even more so, Paul didn't see a physical Jesus. It was a spiritual experience, right? So like this is consistent with the
It could be
imposter.
physical. Why wouldn't it be physical?
My understanding is that it was like it was a spiritual thing, but I could be, I've talked to Christians who made that claim, so I could be wrong. Maybe the claim is that he physically appeared, but my understanding was
Go
the
to
contrary.
the Word of God. Hang on, let me look it up. Or maybe one of you guys will get it first.
What?
Just want to see what it says in Acts. Sorry. I'm pretty sure it says he... Anyways, I'll look this up. Paul's conversion. Also, I think the testimony of Paul is pretty convincing in that he was rabidly against Christians, and then this pivotal moment occurs. He's then transformed completely, and then becomes one of the most foremost of the apostles leading forward. I think that's pretty, just like with even more so than the disciples. The disciples weren't anti-Christ like Paul was initially.
So I guess like the problem in my mind is that it seems much more likely that Paul hallucinated, or that, like, given inconsistencies, like direct, blatant inconsistencies in the story, I don't know. I'm just more inclined to think that it was like some natural explanation. I just feel like this is the type of thing that you would remember very clearly.
Well, again, if it's Paul speaking in one of those accounts, and then it's Luke recording it in another account, I think people remember things differently. Obviously, you could then say none of it happened, but I think that if anything, that might lend more towards his credibility.
So suppose for a moment that these verses, like, so we have Corinthians and we have Acts, right? Both describing the same thing. So suppose that they actually are just the shared impression, just with slight differences between them. Well, in Acts, it's described as a bright light and a voice, right? And in Corinthians, it's described as, Jesus appears to Paul. So it seems like the implication here is that this is not a physical person appearing to Paul. Otherwise, Acts would not be slightly wrong. Acts would be wildly wrong.
Why? Because it says a light.
Because it's a light and a voice, and not a physical person.
Right, but if you look at other appearances of Christ, say in Revelation, he's always preceded by a bright light, like he's hidden in the light.
I guess
Paul, if he was hidden in the light, then how did Paul see him?
Well, Paul, again, if the other people walking around don't see, they just see the light. Does that preclude the fact that Paul couldn't see him if he's appeering to Paul directly? I guess I'll grant your point.
But they describe what they do say. That's if they didn't describe it at all, then you might have a point. But they describe what they do see, and what they do see is a light, a bright light, and then they hear a voice, right?
I'll grant you that. What about John in Revelation?
You'll have to give me more details of that.
So Jesus appears to him
in a physical
pretty
body?
Explicitly. In body, yes. Now, obviously, it's a vision, so you would say, "Oh, it's not. It's symbolic, I guess."
Well, so a vision is still visions of the dead is still compatible with the imposter hypothesis, right? The imposter hypothesis is purely about the physical appearance of Jesus before he ascended.
And okay, so in that case, then all the accounts of him like passing through walls and stuff like that, being caught up to heaven, that sort of thing, would be just fabrications on top to further convince people, basically.
It depends. It depends on the particular bit. the particular.
Well, it would have to. If it's an
I mean,
imposter, it's a man. He can't do that, right?
Well, so what I'm saying is the claim depends on whether it's fabrication or whether
Right.
it was, sorry, I can't think of the word, like a stage trick.
Yeah.
It could be a whole bunch of
Parlor
things.
trick.
But this
No,
is
what
the thing,
about-
like, that's the hypothesis anyway, and at least on face value, like, it's plausible that this was an imposter rather than a risen man.
What about the account that I think it's something like 500 people witnessed his ascension?
I just have no evidence.
But,
Right,
okay, so now we're
like-
back. So it's either an imposter
Wait,
or it's no.
so Ian doesn't like the imposter hypothesis.
Yeah,
that's
I,
why.
Okay,
I,
I'll-
hate, I hate
Alright.
alternative hypothesis. I'm just but Blitz, you can run it. Yeah, you go, Blitz.
So the verse in question, you have 500 people witnessing his ascension. I mean, like, in principle, so you have to understand where I'm coming at this from. So I'm coming at this from: is there a way that we could is there a way that we could see these people genuinely believe they had this experience while still obeying the laws of physics? That's the question, right? So, like, in principle, yeah, if it's the case that 500 people believe that they witnessed this, they had pyrotechnics.
Ascension to heaven?
I mean, like, what do you think that they saw him floating all the way up? Is that what the verse?
Yeah.
Is that what the verse says?
Let's look. I mean, again, we can look at it.
All right, let's go look at the verse.
There's
I
two.
guess
There's Acts, and then I
Corinthians 15.
think is it Corinthians again? Acts is one account.
Yeah, 1 Corinthians 15.
Is it Ian? Is Ian your actual name when it says allegedly Ian?
Yeah.
Were you on? You were at the Jordan Peterson thing.
I was.
I would recognize you anywhere. It was nice to see you on that one.
Hey, that's kind of you. I appreciate that.
Did you? Were you happy with your? How much time did you get? Like 2 minutes max?
I got 8 minutes. I was lucky.
Okay.
I got like a good amount of time. I don't know. It could have been something like because the director, since I flew from Maryland to LA, and a lot of
Okay.
the other people there were just like from LA. So the director was like, "Yeah, I'll make sure that you get to speak to him because not everyone will get to speak to him." So I don't know if I was just not voted out for a while because I also had like lots of friends there who didn't vote me out. So
Okay, that's right, I do that.
But there's an alternative hypothesis where simply not enough people or there was like enough people raising the flag, but the director just didn't pull me out because I flew so far. I also think about that, but
So
Did-
it looks like it's
were
in
you-
1 Corinthians, by the way.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's the Acts. Yeah.
I don't see the one in Acts, but I can look.
Well, okay, so the one in Acts is when he ascends. It doesn't say there's 500 people with him. In Acts.
Right. So in first Corinthians, it just says he appears to 500 people, and then it could. There's no ascension required. It could just be the imposter appearing to 500 people.
Okay, but then what about the apostles who? Okay, that's fair. I'll grant you that. That's my bad. What about the Acts account where they say they see him ascending
what's
into
the verse?
rising into heaven? 2 white-robed men suddenly stood among them. So not only do we
Well,
get an
wh-
imposter
white-robed
going to
men
heaven,
are-
but we have 2 new men, imposters, appear amongst them right after this happens.
Well, I mean, they don't have to be imposters. They could just be white-robed men.
But they're okay. So they're just strangers that just suddenly appeared when this other guy who just
It
went
was
into
all
heaven.
planned.
Right. Okay. So this would be the thing. So it would basically that's the alternative. I say I don't find that plausible. You say you find that plausible.
Hold on.
Either way.
You're telling me that conspiracies are not plausible, but a man rising from the dead and then ascending to heaven is? Conspiracies happen in real life. We know that they
Well, that's
happen. They're super common, actually. So to
No,
say that
I
that's
think
not
that-
plausible is crazy.
I say I don't find somehow them ascend. I don't see how they would get a man to ascend into heaven. That part I don't get. That's
I'd have to
plausible.
go look at the verse. But, like, I mean,
But I understand your point. But
surely theatrics were sufficiently advanced 2,000 years ago that they could make something appear that way, and that seems more likely than a man actually ascending to heaven. Because I know that theatrics exist. I don't
Right.
know that men ascend to heaven.
right. So that's where we get to. I find that like that could happen. I don't see why that couldn't happen. Men ascending to heaven.
Well, because you have no other experience of this ever happening. Your prior for it should be close to zero.
obviously, I'm going to say the other ones which are in the Bible. So you would say that's in the Bible. So we'd,
Well, no. So let's say you didn't know anything about the Bible, right? You didn't know anything about Christianity, anything like that. If I told you that a man was killed, rose from the dead 3 days later, and then ascended to heaven, your priors for that happening as described should be like in the floor. You should have you should be like, that has like a 0.000001% chance of being true.
yeah, it's very unlikely.
If I give an alternative explanation that, oh, this was like a Roman conspiracy to whatever, then you could be like, okay, well that seems a little far-fetched, but like maybe it's like a 10% chance.
But
And so now you're comparing across orders of magnitude. So you would need overwhelming evidence to increase the probability of the actual ascension narrative, compared with the thing that's already like normally kind of plausible, to be a better explanation, is what I'm getting at.
okay, that's fair. Although I think the implausibility of it, the fact that it's so crazy, and then this event spreads like wildfire throughout Jerusalem and then throughout the Roman Empire after, I think, if anything, makes it, again, lends it more to the fact that it probably did happen. It was so unbelievable that no one would believe it. So then if it did happen, you would believe it. Does that make sense?
No, you're saying
Okay.
that because it's so implausible, the fact that people believe that it's true makes
this
it
goes
more
back-
plausible.
Well, this goes back to what you said about Jesus appearing in your living room with your wife. Like, if that happened, it's so implausible you would believe in him.
I wouldn't believe in him because it's so implausible. I would believe in him because I would have had direct experiential evidence.
Which is what they had. They had direct
Well,
experiential
that's
evidence.
the
You
claim.
would say
We
it's
don't
a-
actually know. We don't
Well,
actually
yeah,
know
but you
if that's
say
the
it's an imposter as an alternative hypothesis to that.
Yeah.
They claim they had direct, lots of them
Right.
claim.
So just to be clear, if a guy wandered into my house who looked a little bit like, how Jesus is depicted, and then claimed to be Jesus, I would be a lot more suspicious of that.
But those people, again, who had Jesus appear to them, many times he would appear straight into a room, just like you claimed, and then they
Really? Where
believed
does
in
it say
him.
When?
All right, let's
He
do
just,
it again,
pops
guys.
up?
Actually, don't mind. This is the word, so let's do it. He appears to them. I'm sorry, I need to be better at these.
No, you're good.
words. Ian, were you happy with the Jordan Peterson? Was there false pretenses at all? Because it had Christian versus 20 atheists,
So-
but he's not a Christian.
So I knew who it was going to be just based on the interview questions, because the interviewer weeks prior described him as someone who didn't really care about the historicity. They didn't give me his name, but they said he didn't really care about the historicity. He is into psychology and meaning, and I was like, well, there's literally only one person that it could be. So I knew who it was going to be, and I spread the word to a few people. So I told
Oh, you
my
guys
friend
came armed.
Patrick, and Patrick is friends with Zena, so Zena knew who it was going to be. I told Danny. Danny told Parker.
Told me.
So I told you. So
you there?
A few of us.
I wasn't there. I'm just a friend of the three people that were there.
Okay.
Yeah, a few of us knew who it was going to be, but there was a lot of people who had no idea.
But he's I don't know. He didn't seem very engaged in actually addressing the issues. He seemed
No,
like
of
I
course
don't know.
not.
I don't know.
He
I
was
don't know
he
what's
was
Benzos will
not
do
he was
that to
not
you.
the right choice. As
Yeah,
soon as I knew
that's
that
what
it
I'm
was him, it was too big of an opportunity to give up. But I mean, he's just not a Christian, right? It's like a boring conversation.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, that's why I don't get. But oh well. Sorry,
No,
I was
you're good. You're
filibustering
totally
while I was
good.
trying to find this.
Don't even
verse.
worry about it. I'm more than happy to talk about it.
Had you done? Is that kind of what would you say has been your biggest exposure so far?
Probably that, right? Like I got reacted to by a whole bunch of people. Like Cosmic Skeptic made a video reacting to
Yeah,
it
that
just
came
last
out
night.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
I like him. He's at least open-minded.
yeah,
Hey, he goes by Alex O'Connor now. Not Cosmic
Yeah,
Skeptic. He's not a cringe atheist anymore.
yeah, exactly.
Well, it's funny you were saying when you were talking about the creation of the universe and how you don't, Dr. Blitz, is that the only name you're going to go by? Do you have a personal name you'd like to
Yeah.
tell or not? Okay, that's fair. So
No,
Dr.
I
Blitz,
like to keep it fairly anonymous.
that's fair. I understand that. So you were saying that you think it's, again, possible or probable that the universe had no beginning, or that there was no beginning, basically.
Yeah, so I lean maybe 60-40 that the universe had no beginning. But I'm not super fully committed to that.
which is I hadn't been in this space in a while. I'd really gotten into all these debates back in like Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris, Brett Weinstein, all those types of days, and it was or like Richard Dawkins, all that, and it was mainly back then. It was the infinite regress. Turtles all the way down argument wasn't really taken seriously at all. It's just kind of dismissed by both sides. So it's interesting that now it's kind of used.
They
more.
didn't
So
have any physicists.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
like,
okay.
like none
That's fair.
of like the intellectual what are they called, intellectual dark web or
No, like the new atheists. Yeah.
none of the new
the
atheists
intellectual
physicists.
dark web.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Just real quick before I'll get off too, but so John 20:19-23. That
All right,
Sunday
I'll take a
evening,
look.
the disciples were meeting behind locked doors because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders. Suddenly, Jesus was standing there among them. Peace be with you, he said.
Sorry, I'm just pulling it up. You said John 20:19?
Yeah, 19-23, or just 19-20, 21.
So I'm looking at, maybe I should be looking at a different translation. I'm looking at the NIV, but I could look at the RSV if you'd prefer.
Let's
What's the
your quiet.
NIV say?
Sorry. Yeah, so the NIV says, on the evening of the first day of the week when the disciples were together with the doors locked for fear of the Jewish leaders, Jesus came and stood among them. And so it's just like he just came and joined them.
Okay.
Like it.
Yeah,
I
okay,
mean,
so
but
it's
maybe
a
that's a
translation here.
Maybe it's a translation issue. Like I can pull up the RSV if you'd prefer, or something else.
We'll have to go back. We might have to go back to
RSV says roughly the same thing. I'm looking at the NIV. Jesus came and stood among them.
Okay, that's fair. I'll have to look up the actual translation of that, or like the original. I guess it
Sure.
would be Greek. Anyways, I've taken up enough of your time, guys. I appreciate all the debate, though. You guys are very open-minded. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much for coming on up. I appreciate that.
Have a good one.
Yeah, no, it was a good time.
Yeah, you as well. You as well.
All right, so we have some super chats. We have one from I'm Just Saying 33 with the $5. Thank you. Ian, can we get a debate between you and Andrew Wilson? That guy Parker and Danny debated on Piers Morgan. I want to see you fold him like a chair. Honestly, I'd like to see that too. Have you talked to him
on
before?
religion, his religion debate is just not very good. I've seen it. He runs like Shroud of Turin. He vaguely gestures at
That's
tag.
embarrassing.
I don't know. I've been like the tag argument
probably wouldn't take
specifically
you
is
up on
like
the debate, to be
one of my
honest.
like niche special interests. Because that I don't know, there was like it was kind of like one of the ways I got in is that I got like folded by like a tag debater because I just had no idea what possibly could be the source of logic on the atheist worldview. But I don't know. Now I have like multiple different explanations. And I also have multiple different methods of dealing with these people. So
Sure. So
plus
$2
the
from
Shroud of
Space
Turin
Lord.
is just funny. So
It's very funny. $2 from Space Lord of 75. We know nothing about what the disciples saw. Well, yeah, I mean, we have like claims of what the disciples saw. If you take them seriously, then you have to engage with that. If you don't take them seriously, then you're good. Larry Beck with the $6.66. You guys know what to do. You all do pretty work. Nice hat, Ian.
thank you.
Bubblemint J with the $10. Sunday mornings are for the gym and unapologetic. Best Sunday school ever. Happy Pride. Love y'all. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride indeed.
One
All
of
right.
the 7 deadly sins. I'm about it.
All right. It's Jason time.
It is Jason time. And Jason should probably be our last guest.
Yeah.
Jason has
Jason,
cool
how's it
stuff.
going? We can't hear you, Jason. The
But
reveal.
we can see you being kind of creepy.
Yeah. Wait, Jason, your camera. Can you do this one more time? Can you run this from the top? Actually, can I put your camera on the screen? Yeah. Hold on. Yeah.
That was such good.
Yo, that's
Oh, you guys are
okay.
missing it.
Damn, that's really funny. Okay, wait, where is it? Jason, I'll give you the cue, Jason. I'll give you the cue. All right, you're good to go, Jason. You're good to go, I think.
All right, go for it. Show us the face. Give us the reveal. It's just so funny. Please tell me that you go like this and there's like another mask underneath.
Yeah. We can't hear you, by the way. Your audio.
Yeah, we can't hear you at all.
Yeah. I feel like I'm so jaded. Like I half expect him to like pull his dick out. Gosh, you would never. Spider-Man would never do that to us.
No, he pulls off his mask and his penis is up there.
Oh gosh, Jason, I don't know if you wanted to talk to us about God. You're more than welcome to refresh and then come back. It's up to you. I think all of. Oh, you're here. How's it going?
I just kind of want to get this clear.
Your audio is not good.
Well, talking through a mask will do that.
I just want to kind of show everyone.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Did you just want to show us your collection?
Is this better?
Yeah.
Well, your audio is still trash, but did you just want to show us your
Yeah,
collection?
basically. All right.
Okay. Yeah, let's see it.
Yep.
So we got a lightsaber. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Whoa. Look at those saber spins. Whoa. Explain this, atheist.
Bet you can't.
So this is all made by Hasbro.
Yeah?
Some of it's really old,
Do you got any Transformers in there?
about 24 years old. Dr. Jones. No. Sadly, I do not. We got the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. Good design for Hasbro. Then, best part, 2001 Jurassic Park 3 React Attack figures. Those are the 24 years old.
That's as old as
Me.
someone.
I bought
I
them
didn't
off
know
of
if
eBay.
your age is publicly available.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I bought this one. Bought this one off of eBay. The original Spinosaurus figure for React Attack. I actually hate the seller. Because he made sure that I would see this. Oh, crap. I would see
Gosh,
this
every time you angled
when I opened the
down.
box.
I was so worried. I would see this.
It's a bootleg.
Penis.
It's a bootleg. It's a bootleg. It's a bootleg that he painted.
Whoa. Who let those dogs out?
We got the Mattel stuff. Sorry about that. Then we got the Mattel stuff.
Yeah, that's fine.
Movie accurate Dumbledore wand.
Fuck yeah.
Nice.
Let's go. I think I believe now. I think I'm a believer.
Tremors. A Bob Ross mint container. Just why not?
Yeah. Base?
Love me some Bob Ross.
Yeah. Well, I
Sheldon.
appreciate everyone coming on out. I think we're probably going to end stream.
Absolutely, we will.
Yeah. But do we
Thanks
have
for watching,
anything
everybody.
else?
We got of course, the Legos.
Yep.
This is actually discontinued. Old grade color. They